It's day 2 of the European Rowing Championships, and we have a fantastic programme of racing for you today. I'm Martin Cross, and with me in the commentary booth is Greg Searle. Morning, Greg.
Morning, Martin. Hello, everybody. Welcome to our coverage. There you can see the lake, the Munich Olympic course, and it looks pretty good out there today, doesn't it, Martin?
It does, and when we were down here first thing this morning, there was not a breath of wind on the course. We'll have a look at the weather. It was a pretty sort of breezy headwind conditions for the athletes yesterday. Today it does look like a little bit of a headwind blowing up on the lake, but not as breezy. And yeah, look, current temperature 16 degrees centigrade.
Yeah, you can see it there, 16 degrees centigrade, and it says 6 kilometres per hour. It was nice to speak to some of the athletes yesterday, because we sit in the commentary box and we watch these pictures, and they were saying it did feel like a good, strong headwind, sometimes crosshead, out on the water. And yeah, as you say, this morning we got to watch, and those flags were limp, weren't they? But now the breeze is just filling in. Yeah,
so we're going to have a pretty full morning through till just before midday. We start. It's basically crews trying to get into the A finals. So we've got semi-finals in the women's double sculls, repechages in the women's pair and four to go straight through to the A finals. Preliminary races where the athletes race for the first time in the competition. See that in the lightweight women's quadruple sculls. And A final places at stake, so it's really quite tense this morning. Men's double sculls repechage, that's I think to get into the semi-final at 9:54. Then lightweight women's double sculls repechage, 2 crews through already to the A final, the British, and just remind me who the second one was. Can't remember that, Greg.
I'll come back to you on that, Martin. You've
men's
thrown
single
it to
sculls, repechage 1 and repechage 2. We saw that again, that's for entry into the semi-finals. And then going through towards the end of the day, this is the last page, we've got at first of the C finals, the men's pair and the quadruple sculls, places 13 and lower. And then we finish the day with the men's quadruple sculls semi-final, A and B, and that is for places in the A final.
Yeah, and there were great races yesterday all across the board. It was the Italians, of course, the Olympic champions in the lightweight women's double.
How could I forget the Olympic champions?
Yeah, they were joyful out in Tokyo, and they were pretty happy yesterday with their performance. So as you say, the races today are generally, people trying to get into A finals. We'll try and tell you what each one is. If it's a semi-final, it'll be 3 through. If it's repechages, sometimes it's only 2 through.
And I think as we're looking at the boat park there, this fantastic course that was built for the 1972 Olympic Games, you know, there's quite a nice feel about the multi-sport event here with all the volunteers around and all the facilities and the mix zones and what have you.
Yeah, you can see the blue uniforms of those probably volunteers at the end of that landing stage. They're kind of collecting the shoes, moving them for the athletes from one stage to another, doing a lot of the transport and these volunteering roles around the place. And yeah, it gives it a good feel, doesn't it?
Yeah, so that's the area where the athletes boat from. It's obviously at the finish of the course, and they travel up to the start. The coaches see their athletes off, and then they cycle alongside. A lot of coaches following the races. We did have one crash yesterday, didn't we?
Yeah, it did have a little wipe out. The coach of the British women's 8 managed to find a photographer stood in the middle of the path, and yeah, those 8s go along at quite a pace. So yeah, you need to keep your wits about you if you're coming down here. But no, bikes are just getting into position now. It's like some of the Ukrainian coaching team.
Yeah, well spotted, Greg. And the Ukrainians quite a presence here. The women's quadruple scull won well yesterday. Went through, I think, to the A final along with the British women's quadruple scull. And quite a few scooters out here as well following races. It's interesting to see some of the coaches that are going on scooters. Normally the preferred weapon of choice is a bike for a coach following a crew.
Yeah, probably good for the coaches to keep burning calories because quite a few of them used to be athletes, didn't they? But don't get the chance to get out on the water or get on the rowing machine, although some of them you see going for runs. I think the bike is probably quite a good idea, isn't it? Keep you fit, cycling up and down.
We have those umpiring launches there, and they are static umpiring launches, particularly for these heats, yesterday's heats and repechages, which basically means the umpires are positioned down the course, and they kind of nudge out and nudge back in again, so there's less wash for the competitors on the course to deal with.
Yeah, so you can see that's a good point actually. So you can see the water is really quite calm, so there's not any motorboats on the move. We'll have one motorboat which will give a few pictures following the boats from behind, but generally no, it's only rowers who are moving, so hopefully the wash is minimised because this lake doesn't have a return channel or anything like that. It's just as you can see it, 8 lanes across, 6 lanes for racing in the middle. So yeah, have to row through motorboat washes, and it looks very calm.
Yeah, and it is a venue for no sort of public cyclists allowed, but I think obviously he's either a coach or a member of the public. People love to run around this lake and exercise. The crowds.
Yeah, there's not a lot of cafes, are there?
No, there are not a lot of cafes. We did try to find one. There's a great coffee place for the volunteers, but not so many concession stalls that I've spotted here so far, like some of the other European lakes. So you can see this is a picture down towards the start, and the crews are kind of warming up. You can see them in their lanes there doing various bursts.
Yeah, if you're not a trained viewer, it looks a bit chaotic, but there's actually a very clear circulation pattern that exists, so that you can see people will want to row in the direction of travel so they can feel the headwind and do their final warm-up bursts, feeling what the conditions are like. So when they come to race time, they know. And then these athletes you can see on the left of the picture are then just returning towards the start.
Yeah, it just made me think of a bit of a story, the USA in 2004 in Athens at the Olympics. It was very hot for the finals. Maybe that story will have to wait till after we get to the double sculls semi-finals, which are our first 2 races. So
I will look forward to that, Martin.
Yeah, it's a good story. So sculling, each rower has 2 oars instead of in sweep rowing where they have 1, and it's the women's double sculls. So there we see the first semi-final of the women's double sculls. So there are 3 A-final places at stake in each of these semi-finals. And the scullers are already on the start.
So this is the lineup. So you can see Ukraine, Great Britain, the Netherlands, Lithuania, Switzerland and Austria. And as you say, Martin, 3 of these will make it through. Yeah, and I think it's in for a big race.
So here are the crew from the Ukraine. That's Anastasia Kozenkova and Diana Serebrinskaya, the 27-year-old stroke of the crew. I think they've had an order change just recently. So Saskia Budget and Kyra Edwards, we were chatting to them in a hotel yesterday. They need to finish in the top 3, obviously. The British double had a decent scull yesterday. Rose de Jong, furthest away from us, and Lala Yusufu from the Netherlands, one of the heat winners from yesterday, as was this double, Donata Caroline, furthest away from us, and Dovile Rinkuta in the stroke seat. Here's the double from Switzerland, Fabienne Schweitzer, she's furthest away, and closest to us, Nina Wettstein. And Tabea Minchimaya from Austria. It's her first or second international race after yesterday, and Katrina Lobnig, one of the Lobnig sisters. Her sister Magdalena is racing in the women's singles, and we are off.
Yeah, pretty smooth start for these doubles. As you said, the 2 in the middle, Lithuania looked very good yesterday, we thought, and the Netherlands, unsurprisingly, making a pretty quick start. So you've got to be thinking those 2 are crews who should be taking the lead here, and the other 4 have only got 1 place to go for if those 2 go to form.
Yeah, and Saskia Budget and Kyra Edwards powering off in the front of this race. It's an improving double this. Kyra Edwards come back into the boat. She was in the women's quad in Lucerne. And Saskia ready to race now. Safu and de Jong powering off.
Yeah, the race leaders there, they're at settled into their sort of 39 strokes a minute with that double from the Netherlands, slightly higher than the rest of the field, and it's just making a difference for them now. Well, they've kept the rate a little bit higher and are still moving out on the rest of the field. It's that Austrian double over on the side of the course in lane 6.
Yeah, the Austrians had to come through the repechage yesterday. The Dutch have gone out quickly, and in second place it's the Lithuanians. So in yesterday's race, the Lithuanians had the quicker time. They came finished in 7:39 to the Dutch 7:43. Conditions may not have been quite the same between the two heats.
Yeah, the wind was certainly headwind and fairly consistent, but of course you never know quite what you've got in the race. You never know quite what you need to give to make your way through. So that's a good start, obviously, for the Netherlands to get clear. Lithuania, as we expected, pushing into the second position. For me, it's going to be all about who can get a third place. And this double, I mean, they look like they're enjoying the conditions today, don't they?
They certainly do. And Roos de Jong, I mean, it's so good for Lali Safa herself, a Tokyo Olympian. She was in the women's quad that finished 6th in Tokyo, but Roos de Jong to be there up in the bows, experienced Olympic bronze medalist in women's double sculls from Tokyo.
Yeah, we're taking a look here at Lithuanians. Doesn't look quite as clean as that Dutch boat. Looks a bit like sort of more of a flick at the end of the stroke, trying to get the blades out of the water, rather than the sort of calmness that we see with Roos de Jong and Leila Yousafzai at the front of the field, where it just kind of looks a bit calmer and quieter at this stage.
Swiss double in their mid-race pace, just looking to maintain, I think, that third place position. We've got the launch trailing these crews, that you can see the crews on the top of the picture. So Kozenkova and Serebrianskaya from the Ukraine at the top of your picture, their bows just edging ahead of Kyra Edwards and Saskia Budget from Great Britain. The number 5 is the third place boat, which is the crew of Schweitzer and Wettenstein from Switzerland. These are the race leaders we're riding with at the moment. Been smooth from the off.
Yeah, so coming up towards the halfway, that was a nice picture we got from that boat behind, which will probably leave the cruise now, and we'll just pick this up from the side with the cars. But you can see this fixed camera here showing a good lead for the crew from Netherlands. Lithuania pushing their way nicely into the second place, and the Swiss will be desperate to stay in that position. The challenge, I think, is likely to come from over there at the top of the screen. Ukraine and Great Britain will be desperate to try and stay with their pace.
This Dutch double from the Proteus Ertes and the Laha clubs up in Delft, and coached by Michel Darville. I think Freek Robers does some coaching with the women's sculling team as well. New coaching team for the Netherlands, and been away training. They missed Lucerne Regatta, the team from the Netherlands, and this is one of the crews that have come back really on form.
Yeah, look very good there, don't they? The boat looks quite high out of the water today, where the water's so calm, and they look like they're just able to kind of sit on top of it and let it keep moving in between the strokes nicely. Lithuania
just slightly edging back on that gap. There was a little look over the shoulder from Renata Caroline, former Vistatate, Vistatate, should I say. The Swiss in a good third place position. I think they'll be pretty satisfied with their morning's work so far in this third quarter of the race, yet to go into the last 500 metres. The British have made a little move on that far side, Greg.
Yeah, just seeing that, the British have taken the lead. They're ahead of the crew from Ukraine to their right, and they're going to be wanting to come back here. They're really quite strong and powerful, don't they? Kyra Edwards in the bow seat there. Yeah, it's a strong move. They've made 35 strokes a minute. They're closing the gap on the crew from Switzerland. We're going to see it when we come through this marker, but it's down to only about 2 or 3 metres according to the graphic that I've got.
So I was saying the Swiss will be pretty satisfied with their morning's work, but they'll be keeping an eye across to their right to the British, and very aware of them in the last quarter of the race. And at the moment, the British are going to go through the 1,500 metres, well, just in front of the Swiss, maybe. What a move in that third quarter from Edwards and Budget.
Yeah, the British crews in general have been settling into quite a steady rhythm early on and then coming through in the middle 1,000. So it's going to come down to whether they can continue that pace through or whether the Swiss, having been out in front, can now turn that around. You can see the graphic in the bottom left of your screen. That's the distance they are behind the leaders. And what's important here for the qualification is that gap between Great Britain and Switzerland, which has suddenly got up to 10 metres, suggesting Great Britain have got a good lead on the Swiss.
So Lithuania still trying to close and get that overlap in the last 500 metres of this race. Does look like these two are safely going to qualify for the A final. 3 places for the A final in this competition. As we come through to the finish, the water flattens out and Lithuania maybe can't quite get the overlap, but a very decent scull from them so far down the course. Britain in that third qualifying position over Switzerland. You can see they've got about a 20-metre lead, so the Swiss look out of it, even though the cowbells are ringing for them.
Yeah, the cowbells are ringing, but I don't think it's going to be enough for the Swiss. You can see this picture here. This is Great Britain in the blue to the right. It's Ukraine to the left. Those are the two who are really looking for that third qualifying place. But Great Britain look like they've timed their effort very well. They were pretty calm in the early stages, but then they've made that move and come through. So here we go, the 3 qualifying places. It's going to be the Netherlands in first place. It's going to be Lithuania third, and Great Britain there going to secure that third qualifying space.
Yeah, and they'll be pretty pleased as punch about that one. Tap on the back from Kyra Edwards. But what a great scull from this Super Netherlands double, Loes de Jong and Laila Yousafzai. They have to be on their game because they've got to face, presumably, the Olympic champions from Romania, world champions too. There's the second place double. And there's the third place double. We'll give you confirmation of those results. But we are hearing, as we see, yeah, the Netherlands, Lithuania and Great Britain directly through to final A. Ukraine, Switzerland and Austria, well, they go to final B. But I'm hearing, Greg, that in the next race that the Irish double has withdrawn because Sunita Puspura has been omitted because of medical reasons. So,
well, that's very disappointing for them, isn't it? It could be disappointing for us too. I can see that, yeah, on the graphic it looks like they're not going to be in this race.
Well, Sunita Puspura, that's the empty lane for Ireland. So at the top of your picture, that's Thea Helseth and Jenny Marie Rovik from Norway. No Irish crew. Bodnar and Radis, the Olympic champions, in the lead as we cut to the race live. They're in lane 3. In lane 4, so on the left-hand side of Bodnar and Radis, it's the Italians, Kiri Tontadonati and Stefania Gobbi. You can see them in the blue, can't you? They're kind of just behind that Polish double of Marta Wielska and Joanna Dittmann, who are back in second place. And then Judith Guz and Sophie Leopold. If we get a look at them, we probably won't get a look at them.
Well, look, you can see the Romanians on the screen here, Olympic champions in a commanding lead. They look fantastic. They looked so smooth yesterday, and they look like that again. They're enjoying the early start today and the calm conditions. Looking to your left, you can see where the qualification is. And as we say, it's 3 through, but here they go. What do you think, Martin?
What I think is I want to talk to their coach, Antonio Colomanici, and just check out why these two women are so special and so amazing. I mean, they're only 23 years of age. Simona Radis, the stroke woman, has been rowing since she was 13 from the Steuer Club in Bucharest. But I don't know their ergo scores, but I think their cohesion is so brilliant and beautiful together. We're looking at the Polish double. Joanna Dittmann closest to us. In the stroke seats, it was in the quad in the 4 in Tokyo, finished 6th. The 30-year-old, 27 years of age, Marta Wielska behind her.
And Wielska also in Tokyo. So, yeah, she was second, silver medal in the quad.
Yeah, that's right. Great Polish women's quad. We haven't got a Polish women's quad here. I'm trying to recall that. There's the Italians, Tontadonati and Gobbi. I think they're in third place.
Also both in Tokyo. They were second in Lucerne behind the Romanians. So yeah, I mean, this is a very stacked race. And they, yeah, I mean, looking fairly clear. Shame not to have the Irish there, because as we say, it's 3 to go through. So you can see it's Romania way out in front, Italy and Poland, and then really quite a gap back to Norway and Germany. So these 3 are fairly comfortable, really, of their positions.
Is there a crew in this championships who are as dominant in their event as the Romanians are in this one, Greg?
It's a good question, and so far they're looking so good to be clear. I mean, clearly we'll find out tomorrow. I mean, the Netherlands look very good winning the other semi-final, but they certainly weren't as far clear as the Romanians are in this one.
I mean, maybe on the world stage, the Chinese women's quad being as dominant as the Romanian double. I mean, you know, if they're going to win races by as much as this, and this isn't the A final, the top 3 go through to the A final from this race as we pass the 500 metres to go mark. But they've got to be a contender for World Rowing's Crew of the Year, Female Crew of the Year, you know, if they're that dominant.
Certainly if this sort of performance carries on through the year with this level of dominance, which is fantastic for them. As we're taking a look here, these Italians have made a good strong push in the third 500, trying to establish the second qualifying place. Of course, that could get important if we come to windy conditions later on in the regatta, and we need to do lane seeding, and the position you qualify for the final would give you a preferred lane if we had something that looked a little bit unfair.
And as these crews come down to the finish, we're just hearing that the Irish women's 8 sadly has had to withdraw due to Sunita Paspura's medical reasons, and they obviously haven't come here with a sub on board, so in terms of that repechage.
That's a bit of a problem. There's a 5-boat repechage with 4 to qualify, so that might mean they don't need to run the repechage. Everyone will go directly through. But we'll come to that later.
Yeah. So we're looking at the Romanian double and Cuta Bodnar on the right of your picture. Simona Radis, 23-year-old, and Cuta from the Dinamo Club in Bucharest. Beautiful. I mean, I said yesterday in commentary that early arm break from Simona Radis might mean you wouldn't use it as a perfect coaching video, but I think looking at the cohesion, looking at the boats, it's a joy to behold. There are the Italians in second place in this A final. Look around there, you saw it, didn't you, from Kiriton to Donati. She couldn't see the Romanians, she could see their weight. But the Romanians are going to cross the line and qualify for the A final with a win, a very emphatic win, as you can see. Italy will take second place and Poland third place. No Ireland in this race. If you're just tuning in, welcome to our transmission. If you're watching from Ireland, the sad news that Sunita Paspura has had to withdraw from the women's double for medical reasons.
And just to reiterate your point there, Martin, we see the Romanians crossing in 7:13. The Netherlands won the previous semi in 7:17. So yeah, 4 seconds quicker, the Romanian crew. So yeah, they are very impressive.
So that's the semi-finals for this morning, and confirmation that Romania, Italy and Poland go to the A final, and Norway and Germany will contest the B final. No Irish double. So we will have a start list for our next race, which is the women's 4 repechage.
So a quick rundown there, you can see it, Spain, Poland, it's gone off the screen.
No, it's the women's pairs repechage, our next race. So the women's 4s are already lining up on the start. This is the women's pairs repechage. Italy, Denmark, Ireland, Greece, the Czech Republic and Germany. I think that is the Czech Republic, Nikova and Flamkova leading this. The first 2 go through to the final A. Romania, Croatia, are already through, as are Britain and the Netherlands from yesterday's heats. So there are 2 boats through in this race, and you've got the disc Greek pair, Evangelina Fragpu and Kristina Borompu in second place, behind Novotnikova and Flamkova there. Good start by the Czech crew.
Yeah, very good start by the Czech crew. We can see them, they led through 500 in 150. The crew's coming up now towards 1,000. As you say, let's be clear, this is the repechage. There's only one repechage, and there's only 2 places up for grabs.
So they're at halfway now, and that third place crew from Ireland, Emily Hegarty and Fiona Murtagh, that race has suddenly taken on more of an importance now. The women's 8 aren't rowing. Christina Brompu in the stroke seat of the Greek pair, 21 years of age, gold medalist in Varese at the under-23s with her partner Evangelina Fragku, just 19. Fragku in the bows of that boat. The Irish making a real move, Greg.
Yeah, you called that, Martin. Really important race here for this Irish pair. They're both in that Coxless 4. They got the bronze medal in Tokyo. Here they are. They want to be making the A final. If they're to do it, they need to force their way through, which they have done. And they look like they're now more or less taking the lead here.
Yeah, and you know, if you are watching this from Ireland, the Irish, sad news is that the Irish women's double with Sunita Paspura had to withdraw because Sunita was unwell. The Irish women's 8's withdrawn. That's meant that the women's 8's repechage, race 68, scheduled for later today, has been cancelled, and the lanes will be allocated based on the results of previous rounds. So no women's 8's repechage today due to the withdrawal of the Irish pair. But this Irish, Sunita Paspura, Irish 8, this is the Irish pair, Emily Hegarty and Fiona Murtagh, both from that Irish 4 in Tokyo that got that fantastic bronze medal, coached by Giuseppe De Vita.
Look, they've gone up 37 strokes a minute and made just a really consistent move through the second bit of the third quarter, gone straight through this young Greek pair, who, as you said, recently were winning gold at the under-23 World Championships, here competing at European Championships, and they're right in the mix for whether they're going to make it through. They've pushed through that crew from the Czech Republic beside them. So looking good for the second qualifying place. Could the Italians at the top of the screen force their way in as well? I think anything could still happen with this 450 metres to go.
So Kadate and Rocek need to finish in a second place. You can't see their bow number. Well, you can just see them there. They've got to get through the Czechs. They've got to get through the Greeks. It's going to take a real surge. We've seen surges in yesterday's racing, most notably from the Hungarian pair that rated 50 for most of the last 500 and managed to come through and grab a qualifying place. So it's not unheard of, but well, here they come, the Italians, past the Czechs. I think it's going to be a little too late to get through the Greeks, though.
Yeah, still 300 metres to go. A lovely timed and poised race from the experienced Irish pair. You can see them now front of the field. Now they're up to just 38 strokes a minute, and it's just been a smooth building really throughout this second 1,000. It's taken them straight through the Czech pair, who I think were pretty brave to take the lead. They're definitely not going to make it. But yeah, the pair from Greece, young, they've been experienced at racing at those under-23 championships. Here we see them. They're looking pretty good here for this second place.
Christina Brompu, of course, was in that pair that finished 5th in the Olympics. Marvellous for them to make the final. That was with Maria Kiridou. Here she's with Evangelina Fragku, the 19-year-old. She's got a real easy movement and style about her, the Greek woman's bow. But this Irish pair made a fantastic move in the middle of the race. They're coming up to the finish now, and Emily Hegarty on the right of your picture and Fiona Murtagh on the left of your picture in that boat, from University College Cork, studying biological sciences. Fiona Murtagh from Galway take the win and the A final place, and there's just one A final place left, and the Greeks snagged that one. Italy did get through the Czech Republic, but not through the Greeks, so they will go to the B final.
Yeah, so something to smile about for Irish rowing fans. That's a good performance. A tough one for the Greeks. They did well to make it through and get that second qualifying place. And then disappointment for the rest of the field. We've got the Danish crew there in front of us. Confirmation here that we will see the 2 qualifiers being Ireland and Greece ahead of Italy, Czech Republic and Denmark.
So we'll have a quick look at the results before we head off to the start of the next race. So this is the next race, which is the women's 4. Spain on the far side, Poland, Netherlands, Italy, France, Germany closest to the camera. This is a repechage. So the first 2 of these boats, just like the previous race, will go through to the final. And you're watching a replay of the start, and this is now live with the race.
Yes, so what we had was through the first 500. It was the Netherlands who were leading. You can see them on screen here. They did a 1:41, and then it was pretty tight behind them with the other crews. Italy, France and Poland, with Spain as well right in it. Germany, the only crew who looking like they were falling behind a little bit in the first 500. So remember, as you've said, Martin, it's 2 to qualify. Here we are coming up towards the 1,000.
Britain, Romania, Ireland and Denmark already through to the A final. And it looks like a great race, doesn't it? The Poles, Kazmierczak, Mikhailovic, Lesnar and Joracek. On the far side of the course, lane number 2, going toe-to-toe with the Italians, Tarazzi, Mariano, Palacci and Bombaccia in the stroke seat of the Italian crew. Just got a narrow lead. You can see at the moment, there's the Polish battling with the Italians. Closest to us, the Polish stroke, Barbara Joracek, just 20 years of age, the youngest in the Polish crew. And their bows just a metre ahead of the Italians at the moment. It's going to be terribly tight, this race, as they come through to 750 metres to go. You can see the distance on the bottom right of the screen if you're wondering where they are on the course. Got those very helpful big course markers every 250 at this Munich course. And look across from the Italian stroke woman Bombaccia there to the poles. It's a head-to-head race for that second qualifying position. The Dutch out in front.
Yeah, and these Italians were 5th in Lucerne, so they will be hoping they're going to make the final here. But it's a good move from Poland, who've come through and are looking pretty well like they're still moving on Italy, even though Italy are looking to the right and thinking we need to find a response. So far, they're not finding one. The Netherlands out in front, looking pretty smooth there, I think, Martin. That's what we expect to see from these crews from the Netherlands, that kind of smoothness. This looks a little bit more aggressive, searching for it a little more in the Italian boat.
Yeah, the Netherlands crew experienced from the European Championship. You've got athletes like Marla Sollenberg up in the bow seat. You've got a silver in the women's 8, as did 2 other of these athletes, Hermione Drent and Tinka Offerings, but none of them were in the Tokyo Olympics, so they were on a step on. Paris is their target, and this race is a really important part of their march on the road to Paris. And the competition has just hotted up. We've got the Italians, but now the French are coming into it. The French crew, Cornel, Bros, Vertry and Cornu, coached by Christine Gosser, and now pressurising the Italians, who are pressurising the Poles, and we still have 300 or so metres to go. What will develop as we come towards the finish here?
Yeah, no, that is interesting to see if the French can keep coming. As you say, they've come into our shot in the bottom left-hand corner. You can see that French boat about halfway up the Italians. The Italians have responded, though, and are looking to get back at the Polish. It didn't look that comfortable in the boat from the Netherlands, but I think the finish line is going to come soon enough for the Netherlands for sure, and probably for Poland. I think France don't seem to have enough to make a big step on here. We've got the Netherlands there, 38 strokes a minute. Everyone else is sprinting up at 40. They're more in the race for these qualifying places. They're coming down still with just coming up to 100 metres to go. It's looking fairly well like it's going to be Poland for that second place, I think.
That's right, Poland on the far side, Italy sprinting away from France. Their charge has faded, but it's the Netherlands just with a little bit of that clear water lead. There's the French crew in 4th place in this race that we're looking at. But there, the camera pulls back to reveal the Netherlands taking the 1st place in the repechage, go direct to the A final, and it is the Poles who take the 2nd place. They look pretty pleased about that. Italy will have to go through to the B final with the French and the Spanish and the Germans, who are just coming up to the finish line as we speak. Look at that, congratulations going on. Olga Mikhailovic grabs the soldiers of Susanna Lesnar and just basically says, well done. They were chuffed about that, the Poles, weren't they?
They were, in disappointment for these Italians who, had a better time earlier on back in Lucerne. They won't be in the final here, so disappointment for them. You can see the heads are down. They'll be in that B final, wanting to come back and claim the 7th place and keep progressing, keep their year moving forward.
So this is a demonstration race, preliminary race, we call it, in the lightweight women's quadruple sculls. So this is one of the finals that we will have later in the competition. Just 2 crews in this race, only 1 medal at stake. So it's a replay of the start. Germany in the yellow M-packer shell. So this is live with our launch training. You get these great shots and you get the real effect of speed over the water as you see the Italians on the right of your picture lead the Germans on the left of your picture.
Yeah, and that's a nice picture, isn't it, that you can see how well they're moving, seeing the crews from behind here on this following boat that we're able to use in the top 1,000 or so of the course. You can see the Italy moving pretty well together there.
So if you're wondering why there's only 2 crews in this, the Olympic event is the lightweight women's double sculls. The feeder boat for that is the lightweight women's single sculls, which is non-Olympic. This is a non-Olympic boat class, but some of these athletes are trying to get into the lightweight women's double sculls. So we look at Rika Hulsen there in the bow seat, Romy Dreyer, Katrin Volk, Cosina Clotten in the stroke seat, right in your picture now from Germany.
Yeah, they're moving pretty well, aren't they? Hulsen and Dreyer there, just right in our picture. They were at the under-23s just in Varese a couple of weeks ago, where they picked up a silver medal. Here, stepping up to the European Championships, coming through halfway. But it's Italy who look like they have about a 1-length lead, as you can see it there. Both the crews are at 36 strokes a minute, so more or less stroke for stroke. Italy able to just try and eke it out with just a little bit more efficiency each stroke.
Arina Noseda, closest to us, the 24-year-old. I think she's doubling up in the Italian women's 8 as well in this competition. Behind her, Silvia Quasio, under-23 gold medalist. Back in Repechage in the lightweight women's singles. So these are women that feel they have a chance maybe at the lightweight women's double. Paola Piazzola, that familiar name, the 25-year-old, back in the 2 seats. That's one in from the right of your picture. And then up in the bows, Giulia Mignemi, 22 years of age. There she is on the right of your picture. The woman making the calls in the boat. And she'll like what she's seeing at the moment because she's looking at the back of Rika Hulsen, the 19-year-old German bow woman.
Yeah, they're making pretty good progress there, aren't they? Moving really well. Quite an aggressive sort of drive in the second half of the stroke, I thought, from the Italian quad.
You know, you could look, if you didn't see the blue Azzurri vest or the Italian blade, you could look at that and say, you know, which country do you think they come from? Because Italian quadruple scullers seem to have a style, whether it's the men's lightweight or the men's heavyweight.
Yeah, it's a great call there. Yeah. With that, real second half of the stroke, just great acceleration, and then getting the blades out nice and clean in front of them. Some of the quads we saw yesterday looked like they were really chopping it out early. These Italian boats don't tend to do that.
So Germany go through the 500 meters to go mark. It will be, even though, you know, this is a preliminary race, so there will be a final. These 2 crews will race again. Only be 1 medal at stake. And there was a look around from the German stroke woman, Cosima Cloten, 22-year-old. Just wondering where the Italians were. She'll have had to have looked quite a way to see that Italian crew. She'll see the wash. There's our camera. I think the 200 meter to go mark. Get a good picture of the cohesion and movement from that shot, don't you?
Yeah, and they are very cohesive. They do move well together. We're on this, coming along, travelling with them. As you say, there's a nice picture there of, just seeing those backs moving together. A little bit of poise when the blades go in the water, and then that drive in the second half to just get a decent acceleration on the boat, moving it past the blades. Just moving very nicely. going along 33 strokes a minute now. They've consistently moved just a little bit faster than the German quad throughout the whole race.
Just 130 metres to go for the Italians. You can see that lead they have, 23, 24 metres. The graphics on the left of the screen indicate that it's a preliminary race, so these two crews will race again. This gives them the opportunity to come down the course, test out the water, test out their race plan, their race tactics. And Italy are going to be pretty pleased with that win in this preliminary race of the lightweight women's quadruple sculls. These women had to weigh in this morning, a couple of hours before the race, at an average of 57 kilos. Which qualifies them to be lightweight, sub 7 minutes. We're not as strong as it was yesterday. So it's about 45 seconds slower. Yesterday's racing was about a minute slower than world's best time. So women's quadruple sculls is the next race. This is a repechage. There are 4 crews through in this race to the A final. 2 crews having gone through yesterday's heats: France, Germany, Switzerland, the Netherlands, Italy and Romania. And we're looking now at a replay of the start. So only 2 crews will go out of this through to the B final. Ukraine and Great Britain already through from yesterday's heats. Looking forward to a great race here, and that looks like it's another Dutch quad. Vos, Dulmans, Kolkman and Paulis out in front, but pretty close for that second place. At the moment it's the Swiss Dupré, Ulrich, Locher and Walker. And that yellow M-Packer, that German shell, you can see the Swiss blades, can't you, with the red and white cross on the blades. Just tracking the Dutch.
Yeah, and as you say, the Dutch looking very clean here at the front of the field, and it's important to see the graphic in the bottom left. This is the race where you don't want to come last and you don't want to come second last, because 4 are going to make it through. So you can see it's pretty much the perfect chevron, reflecting the performances from yesterday. And yeah, the Netherlands here looking clean, looking quiet at the front of the field, 35 strokes a minute, pretty similar to most of the other crews. And now we'll take a look at the Swiss.
Yeah, here's the Swiss crew, coached by Nicholas Lloyd, Lisa Locher and Pascal Walker closest to us. Locher 22 and Walker 27, raced at the European Championships. The last time of asking, Dupré and Ulrich are new into the boats. They finished 9th in the women's quad. So the Swiss crew has been stepping on. They missed Lucerne, I think due to COVID. And on this near side, the Italian crew, Guerra, Montesano, Isepi and Ondoli. There's the Germans, Greg, on the far side. In 4th place, Vivenitz, Frauke Hunderling, Marie-Sophie Zeidler. Ollie Zeidler's sister, Pia Greiten, in the stroke seat. This is the boat coached by Marcin Wiskowski, and you would expect the German quad to be a little bit higher up the field, not in the repechage, in 4th place.
You can see them making big calls there and saying, right, we need to really hang on to this. They'll be aware of that French crew to their side, that they need to keep them behind them. It's hard to, you need to stay in your tunnel, you need to stay in your boat, you don't want to be distracted. However, you need to be aware of what you've got to do, and they'll know they've got to hang on to that 4th place. Italy
in a qualifying position ahead of Romania and France. They're the 2 boats out of it at the moment. With the cap on, Chiara Ondoli in the stroke seat of the Italian boat, 26-year-old. She used to play volleyball 6 years before she turned to be an oarswoman, a sculler.
How about the Swiss quad here, Martin? They've made a really strong move now, come up pretty much level with the crew from Netherlands. This is a crew with 3 former under-23s, isn't it, from 2021, and there's an experienced rower in there as well, isn't there?
Yeah, that's right. It's a really good Swiss crew. In the Poznan World Cup, they finished 2nd, but in the Repechage under-23s, I think it was Stern 3 got that gold medal. So the Swiss are really hopeful that this is a boat that will go on to produce medal success in the future in Paris. And there, these great shots you see from the trailing camera of the bows, just trading punches with each other. The white Filippi the orange decking of the Netherlands, who have led this race, and the Swiss just pulling back through them. It's quite a blunt nose from that end packer, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the sort of thing we used to have on our sailing boats way back when I was involved with the America's Cup, when boats looked like sailing boats in the America's Cup rather than like spaceships. But yeah, no, quite a blunt nose you put on there. I mean, again, fluid dynamics, the learning you share that you pick up from something like an event like sailing. I'm sure these manufacturers like Empacher and Filippi will look at that. And here we have the Empacher against Filippi race, going bow to bow. It's the Netherlands who took the early lead, and Switzerland who've just been able to put pressure on them really for most of this second 1,000 and just pushed that yellow bow in front there, number 3.
I mean, it's close enough for the Netherlands to think they can have a go at the Swiss if they in tomorrow's final. Bente Paulis. Sorry, Ilse, I got your sister mixed up.
Yeah, and in reality, it doesn't actually matter whether you're first or second in terms of lane draw, I guess, because they'll tend to split them as pairs.
Yeah, they'll be either side of the course, won't they?
Yeah.
One will get, you know, if the wind is like it is today, it doesn't really matter which side of the course you're on.
Yeah. But it's a psychological advantage, isn't it? And Switzerland look like they're going to take it as we're coming through here. The big race, of course, is for that 3rd and 4th qualifying place. But we're going to see it. Switzerland and the Netherlands up there at the front of the field. And then here we go, exactly with the chevron as it was earlier on. It's going to be Germany and then Italy getting the 2 qualifying places. And it's France and Romania who are on the sides of that course, who are going to be the ones who will not make it through to the A final, and we'll see in the B final. So a little bit of disappointment there for Netherlands, I think. You know, they were out in front and then got rode through.
Were you a feet in the water person at the end of races?
No, definitely not. Definitely not, because then your socks get wet and then you put your wet socks in your shoes and then, you know, you row around in the heat and your shoes are minging before you know it. So no, I was never keen on that.
So pleased that the Swiss have picked up a victory in that repechage. 4 crews went through to the A final. There's the Swiss quad that took the first place. Confirmation, you can see 6:44. Times are quicker than they were yesterday. Netherlands, Germany and Italy complete the A final lineup. And we will go to the start for a repechage in the women's single sculls. 2 of these boats, Maddie Arlott, Zoe Fitsu from Greece, Ina Roll from Switzerland, Marie-Louise Drager there in the yellow boat from Germany, and Dora Dragijevic from Croatia on this near side of the course.
So important to note, again, we're watching repechage. It's going to be 2 repechages of the lightweight women's singles, with 2 to qualify in each to the A final.
Yes, good shout that, Greg. Yesterday we saw Martine Veldhuis go through from the Netherlands. Is that a did not start with Maddie Arlott? It didn't get that.
Yeah, Maddie Arlott's not
she
started.
Wasn't looking. That was interesting because she was quite slow, I thought, yesterday.
Yeah, so disappointment yesterday, and then today, yeah, Maddie Arlott there, you see the Great Britain sculler DNS did not start, which leaves us just with the 4 contenders, and really 3 of them here, because you can see the sculler from Croatia a reasonably long way out of it, but it's going to be between these 3 from Greece, Switzerland and the German sculler Drager there, all pretty well together.
So Fitsu, we saw her in the women's double sculls back in the Belgrade World Cup, the first of the season, finished 6th in the open weight double sculls. Now she's come down to 59 kilos for this event here. European champion in this event back in 2021 was Fielman. Obviously the Belarusian not eligible to compete at these championships.
Yes,
Marie-Louise Drager, we love her socks, I have to say. She has the best line in compression socks.
Yeah, well,
Drager.
She's right in it, but the 2 in front have just sort of held on to that small lead. Drager still hasn't ever been in one of the qualifying positions thus far in the race, but we're coming up towards 1,000. And I know in this position, I guess if you've been behind and then you come level, that always feels better than the other way around, doesn't it?
She's a looker, isn't she, Drager? She's looking across quite often to her right, to Ina Roll, the 22-year-old Swiss sculler, again coached by Nick Lloyd, who's now just dropped out of a qualifying place, having been in one. There she is, Ina Roll.
Yeah, she's sculling very nicely along the top of that water. She looks tall and strong, you know, gets those arms really, really straight. So she locks the blades in, leaves the arms out for a long time, and sculls it through. But
Drager's really leaning back on the
through.
back end of the stroke, isn't she? She's really just got that momentum towards the finish, which has taken her into a sort of 2 or 3 metres lead.
Yeah, and she's underrating as well. So Drager, I've got 31 strokes a minute. The 2 scullers to her right are both at 34. So yeah, maybe it has just been that strong, powerful finish that you're talking about, Martin, which just gives it that little bit more. And then lets the boat run just a little bit longer than the other scullers. And yeah, it's still 31 strokes a minute saying on my graphic.
Well, she is so experienced, Drager, the 41-year-old, one of the oldest competitors in this event, the European Championships. If you've tuned into our commentary today, this morning, welcome. I'm Martin Cross, with me Greg Searle. We've been talking you through the race programme today. This is one of 2 repechages of the lightweight women's single sculls. It's a non-Olympic event, but hotly contested, as you can see, and in the qualifying places are Marie-Louise Drager in the foreground there, and the bow of number 2, Zoe Fitsu from Greece, and the Swiss sculler Ina Roll. Well, she was level at the 1,000 metres, but she's lost out in this 3rd quarter by about a length and a half. She's got an awful lot to do if she can find a sprint, which I doubt really, because you wouldn't want to let the scullers go away from you in the 3rd quarter if you can find a sprint. Yeah,
Ina Roll has been up about 36 strokes a minute, which is quite high really in a single scull for most of that 3rd quarter. So it's very hard to imagine where she's got to go. What could she do to actually pile on any more speed at this stage? These 2, by comparison, look like they're going to race it out all the way to the line. As you said, Martin, Drager has been underrating, but yeah, Fitsu of Greece looks like she's coming back and wants to take the 1st place.
It looks like Drager might have a bit of a heavier gear, and she can't quite raise the rating so much. She's got length and she's got power with her.
Yeah, really good point. I mean, let's talk a little bit about the gearing. But I guess if you can be at a lower rate, but you're probably trying to go more distance per stroke, but each stroke is actually harder. So you haven't got quite the change of pace that we're seeing from the Greek sculler now. You can see Drager still at 32, the Greek sculler able to take more strokes and just be a bit more whippy, a bit lighter through the water.
Great shot of that carbon wing rigger there, the reverse wing rigger bolted onto the boat behind Zoe Fitsu as she goes through the gears, meter lead over Marie-Louise Drager. Drager's going to know she's got the 2nd qualifying place, but she might want to just see if she can find some sort of sprint to take her through and win this repechage, get a better lane draw.
I know, like you say, Martin, it's good to say going through the gears. That's really, I'm trying to describe the gears when I'm talking about what the rates might be. And Drager doesn't really have any gears. She's still at 29 strokes a minute now. So it looks like she's more or less settling for that 2nd place, because you can't really do it with just power at this stage. And it is going to be Zoe Fitsu at the top of the screen here, who is going to qualify, winning that repechage, along with Marie-Louise Drager in the 2nd place, and then Ina Roll from Switzerland is going to miss out and be in the B final. And
if you're watching this from Britain, the news is that Maddie Arlott, who seemed to be a bit off her game yesterday, has withdrawn for medical reasons from the event. So no Maddie Arlott, who of course won with Emily Craig in the lightweight women's double in Lucerne, gave up a place in that boat for Imogen Grant. So if you're watching from Britain, that's why you haven't seen Maddie Arlott. But there's Zoe Fitsu, some great replay shots. You can see the compression there. Shin's not quite vertical for Zoe Fitsu. Just gets that really efficient leg draw. A bit of bounce at the back end of the boat there.
Yeah, I noticed she had a nice big seat pad she was sitting on as well.
Oh, did she?
Yeah, yeah.
Are you a seat pad man?
Perhaps we'll have a look at that later.
I'm definitely a seat pad man.
never been a seat pad. Never been
you've
a
got to
seat
get the
pad
seat
person.
pad on, yeah, in the single scull. Otherwise,
Is that to help you get extra length, or is that just comfort, Martin?
comfort, definitely.
Yeah.
So
thought it
Spain,
would be.
France, Italy, Ireland, Natalia Miguel Gomez, Oli Morizot, Stefania Buttigieg, and Aoife Casey from Ireland. Here's a replay of the start. Leaping out, it's Morizot, Oli Morizot, the French sculler, in lane 2. And indeed, she is leading as we go back live with the race now.
Yeah, and again, important to recognise it's 2 to qualify from this. So you can see the crews coming towards the 1,000 as that graphic in the bottom shows you. So we'll get a nice view at halfway of the 2 qualifiers. And it is, yeah, Aoife Casey in 3rd place for Ireland, who's going to need to push on and try and find her way into one of those 2 qualifying places currently occupied in the centre of the course.
She's not out of it. I mean, she had a look there, Aoife Casey, and you know, from yesterday's results with that stronger headwind, I'd have thought she was going to struggle to make the first 2 places. But here, with the conditions a bit gentler, she might find it to her liking. Coached by Dominic Casey, who, of course, works with the lightweight men's Irish double. She's moving back. Look at that, Greg.
No, I think definitely not out of it. The French sculler actually had a 5-second lead on Aoife Casey after 500 metres. She had a 5-second lead. That's now come down to level. So you can't help thinking that the Irish sculler here, as she really looks to give it that bit of extra towards the second half of the stroke, is going to keep moving through.
Well, Aoife Casey has got the background of the Tokyo Olympics behind her, finished 8th in the lightweight women's double scull there with her partner then Margaret Kremen. Casey, 23, has made a really good move, but Stefania Buttigieg has sculled away from the French sculler. There she is, Aurélie Morizot. She's now 16 or 17 metres. She had a look there, you could see it, couldn't you? Just a pretty despairing look as the wash disappears from the leading 2 contenders who have got 2 places in the A final.
As you say, there'll be a despairing look because you would have known, well, I had 5 seconds on these 2 at 500 gone. Now it's gone completely the other way. So yeah, the French sculler there, she's only at 31 strokes a minute now. So I think she probably knows her race is run. But Aoife Casey doesn't look like her race is run, does she? She's really going for it, 35 strokes a minute.
You could sense they must do a lot of competitive training, the Irish, because they do really go for it. They are quite aggressive in the way that they scull, like particularly at the front ends.
And interesting, she's of course coached by the Italian Giovanni, isn't she?
No, she's coached by Dominic Casey.
Oh,
so
of course,
yeah,
sorry,
they have
system.
they have got an Italian performance director. There's a lot of Italian influence in the Irish system, but Dominic Casey, your man,
yeah, of
from
course.
Skibbereen.
No, but I'm just thinking about that sort of way they race. Plenty of passion, plenty of aggression, plenty of rate. Probably, as you say, maybe a slight easing of gearing, so you can get the strokes in, and so you can really have changes of pace, and really go head to head for it like this.
Stefania Buttigieg, the 25-year-old, coached by Franco Cateno, looks after all these sculling crews. Got a pretty quick leg drive. I think kind of Casey's leg drive is more synced in with her, sort of.
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah.
Buttigieg is just a little bit quicker than the boat wants to travel, maybe.
Yeah, I don't know if we'll get another picture of that before the end, because there's only 2:50 to go. But yeah, the Irish sculler looks like her legs really move in time with the boat. The Italian sculler looks like her legs are just going down a little bit too fast for the blades. That she can't be taking the boat with her legs going that fast.
And, well, Aoife Casey moves through very smoothly in the last part of the race. You can see that competitive racing that she'll be doing down in Skibbereen with those crews honed in it. It's a real step up from yesterday's performance from the Irish woman. And the 23-year-old is going to take the win in this second repechage of the women's lightweight single sculls. 2 places in the A final on offer, and you can see the 2 athletes that are going to bag them. Aurélie Morizot, the French, is out of the picture and can't make up that distance. Aoife Casey comes up to the finish line. Tough morning's work for the Irishwoman, but a satisfying one nevertheless.
And she was very patient, wasn't she?
Oh, did you hear the scream? Was that a scream from Stefania Buttigieg?
Oh, that was fantastic.
Yeah, just scream of joy. Don't often hear that. I thought I heard her. And Aurélie Morizot will go to the B final. Aoife Casey, pretty pleased. There's Buttigieg. That was it. Yeah, there it was. That was so cool.
Well listened out for, Martin. Gosh, you can see what that means to make it into the A final of these European Championships. That's brilliant.
That is one of the shots of the finish line of the Championships, isn't it?
It was, and there's a disappointment for the French sculler. He went out very bravely, but you can see there it was the Irish sculler, the French and the Italian sculler who make it through.
About 50 seconds slower than world's best time, Aoife Casey and Stefania Buttigieg. So here's the start list for our next race, which is the lightweight men's single sculls. That's the men's double sculls getting on the repechage. We've got one repechage from the lightweight men's single sculls to get through to the semi-final. There are three places available for the semi-final, and 4 boats in this. So you kind of want to be in the first 3. Goes without saying, doesn't it? So Oscar Sodal from Norway, the leader of this repechage in the lightweight men's single sculls. These athletes weighed in at 72.5 kilos, a couple of hours before racing. Oscar Sodal, the 26-year-old Norwegian.
Yeah, and Oscar Sodal led out through 500. And as we said, this is a race not to come last. The person who's currently occupying that is the Hungarian sculler, who will be out to the top of the picture up there in lane 1. As we have a look here with the Belgian sculler.
Yeah, the Belgian sculler, Marlon Colpart. 750 metres to go. Sculler's pretty much going to be done and dusted now, I think.
Although, Martin, we have had Hungarian crews that can sprint. We saw the men's pair yesterday finishing pretty much taking, well, they got the rate up to 50. But we'll need something similar from the sculler here. We've got the sculler here. This is the sculler from Finland. Looking pretty solid in that 3rd qualifying place, rating 32 strokes a minute.
Yeah. Marlon Colpart from Belgium was entered here in the lightweight men's double scull with Niels van Zwegen, but Niels van Zwegen not racing here. So we'll have a look at the Hungarian sculler, Getty.
Yeah, well, he's really going to have to do something, and at the moment he's still only at 32 strokes a minute. So we got 500 to go, 3 to qualify, and you can see the distance back to the Hungarian scullers. An awful lot to be done here if he is to make a big impression. Here he is on the screen. He's sculling pretty nicely. It looks tidy. He's going to have to do something very impressive from here.
Yeah, you can see the little graphics on the bottom of the screen that indicate who the various athletes are when the camera focuses on them. But out in front, Oscar Sodal from Norway, the 26-year-old. Norway lightweight men's double scull, competing this morning as well. Sodal hopes to get in that boat. At the moment, Norway lightweight men's double scull have been having a good season. And the team from Finland at our hotel we're staying at, Kasper Hilampi, 28 years of age. Just got that slight margin over the Belgian Colparts. Expected to be here in the lightweight men's double scull, but Van Zwegen not competing, so he's here in a single, led by his coach Franz Claes.
And difficult to know what to do really for the scullers in this position, because they know this is the repechage. They're only going to go to a semi-final, so they've still got to race again. So you wouldn't want to be doing more than you need to, really. Seeing the stroke race there, you can see it in the bottom of the picture. Assuming they're going to qualify ahead of the Hungarian Sculler, these guys look like they're fairly comfortably paddling in here at about 30.
Yeah, they certainly do. So the Norwegians have been on an altitude camp on the lake, 6-kilometre long lake up in Norway, at about 1,000 metres, and living in a hut at about 1,900 metres, sleeping in a hut. So that's how they do altitude training in Norway. So Norway takes the win. Belgium takes the second place. Finland in third place. Who is that screaming out? That's a that is, wow, that's a big noise, isn't it? And the Hungarian missing out. Marlon Kolpart finished second. Maybe we can get a shot of who that was screaming. Yeah, at the end of that race. I have to say, could have been the Finnish Sculler, actually.
Very nice pictures.
Yeah, beautiful
that you can
shots.
get to see the close-ups of the face of these scullers, trying to stay calm and relaxed, trying to keep the facial muscles relaxed so the work can go into the muscles that move the boat. And confirmation there.
So Oscar
Qualifying
Sodal.
places.
Sorry to cut over you, Greg. There, Oscar Sodal and Marlon Kolpart, together with Kasper Vivalampi, qualify for the AB semi-finals. So here is the start list for a repechage in the men's double sculls through to the semi-final. The first three: Slovakia, Sweden, Hungary, and Serbia. So we'll look at the start and see them drive off the start. Great start by the Hungarians. The Swedes a little slow off the start. Guess they're going to be looking to battle for that last place. So we're live with the Hungarians.
Yeah, the Hungarians led through 500, just ahead of the Serbians. And as you spotted, Martin, it was the Swedish who were falling a little bit behind off the start, and they're still behind through the 1,000.
Hungarian double have been regular racers on the circuit this season, but it's the Serbians out in front. We'll have a look at them. So Alexander Bednik from Belgrade, in the 30-year-old in the stroke seat, so he's closest to us. Stroke setting the rhythm with those yellow sunglasses you can see on his face. Alexander Bednik, the 26-year-old, behind him. And I think Serbia will have been disappointed to have to race in a repechage, but nevertheless, here they are, and crew of their quality is showing, you know, why they're here for an A final place. But this contest is just to get through to the semi-final. So the first three crews will get through. They're still racing flat out. You can see the Hungarians there. Marlon Sazbo closest to us, and Matt Baksai in the bow seat.
Well, as you say, yeah, racing flat out, 38 strokes a minute in the Hungarian boat. So they want to stay clear of any trouble behind, because like you say, this is a repechage. It gets you into the semi-final and into the last 12, so still plenty more to go in the regatta.
Yeah, they're leaving nothing to chance. The Slovakians, Kovakovic and Heronik, Jakub Heronik, stroking that boat, just keeping, there they are, the Slovakians, just keeping ahead by the Serbians. Sorry, thanks, Greg. Pick me up on that one. I thought we were going to have a look at the third place crew.
Yeah, no, that's important to see that third place crew if we can. It's the Slovakians up in lane 1 and Sweden in lane 2. With 3 to qualify, that's really where the race is at. And will Sweden be able to mount a charge? They're up to 37 strokes a minute. The gap is 10 metres. Looking at the graphic that you can see in the bottom left-hand corner. So he's got the back of the Serbians, but the real qualifying is over there in 1 and 2. You can see it in the graphic. You can just see it in the back of the picture there.
Serbians going down through the gears now, easing into a kind of more steady, I guess, UT1 pace, you'd call that.
You wouldn't call that UT1?
No, you wouldn't call that. What would you call that? AT pace, anaerobic threshold pace?
I would just call it racing.
Yeah, okay.
For me, when it comes to something like this, 38 strokes a minute, hang on to your place. You've been going for 1,500 metres. That's not easy, and it's going to hurt. The Serbians, you can definitely see, are enjoying their position at the front of the field. They're able to relax, see the stroke rates for yourselves, but they're looking solid in that qualifying first position. The race is going on behind them, but the Swedish aren't able to force enough pressure onto the crews in front of them, so I'm pretty sure this is going to stay as it is through the finish line.
There's quite a picture looking at the Hungarians next to the Serbians, isn't it? With the Hungarians, that rating, they haven't dropped it at all as the Serbians cross the line to take the win. There they are, comfortable for them. They'll look to be in the A final, those guys. Hungary finishing second, and the third crew to qualify for the AB semi-finals are the Slovakians. Sweden miss out, and that'll be the end of their regatta. There are no more crews left to race a C final in this event. Hungarians, they don't look like they've been rated 38 all the way down.
No, they don't actually, do they? I wonder if they're doing that sort of thing where you kind of rush up the slide. So move quickly so you get lots of strokes in, but don't actually pull that hard, and try and use that as a way to conserve a little bit of energy. But yeah, you see a confirmation there. Serbia and Hungary qualifying through to those semi-finals. Slovakia, we think we're coming through with them, although that graphic said that they weren't. I will just check that. Pretty sure that Slovakia did go through.
For a repechage of the lightweight women's double sculls: Norway, Czech Republic, France, Poland, and Germany. Britain and who's the other crew that was through that's just gone out of my mind? The lightweight women's double sculls. Italy, of course. I've made that mistake twice. The Olympic champions through already. So 2 crews through from this. There are 2 repechages for lightweight women's double sculls, and this
we've leapt forward in the race. So yeah, it was France who were leading through 500. They're still there at the head of the field. You can see them there, and looking pretty solid. As we have already said, we're looking here at the repechage, and it's 2 to qualify.
So we had some great racing yesterday, 2 fantastic doubles. The Italians and the British qualified directly for the A final, and it's a great race for the second place here. There are the German women, Marlene Reichhardt and Joanna Reichhardt, twins, both 25, coached by Andreas Holtz.
And you can see they're absolutely going for it. 39 strokes a minute, washing out slightly, not looking that tidy. Desperately trying to stay with the Polish crew beside them, because the French look fantastic out in front. Here's the Polish actually looking a little bit calmer than that French crew looked, I thought, than the German crew.
German crew,
looked,
yeah.
I thought they're just looking a little bit smoother, moving pretty solidly and starting to open up their gap to secure that second qualifying place.
Yeah, so 2 places through to the A final here. No surprises that the French, they got beaten by the Italians yesterday, pretty well beaten too. Germans are keeping the Polish, Wellner and Jasinska, honest. The Reichhardt twins. There we see the French crew, Claire Beauvais in the stroke seat. Comes from a rowing family. Her brother Ivan was racing at Henley this year. And life has certainly taken off for those 2 young women after they got the Olympic silver medal in Tokyo. A lot of notice has been taken of that in France, obviously ahead of the Paris 2024 Olympics. They are one of the crews in the frame, Greg.
Yeah, one of those crews to watch. And yeah, they're at the front of the field here. They'll be very pleased. Here we see this German crew. Again, you see bottom left, they're at 38 strokes a minute. Pretty aggressively going for it. As we've already said, there's only 2 qualifying places.
Just give us a shout, Greg. 2 sisters rowing together. What's it like rowing with your sibling? Because you rowed with Johnny.
Yeah, oh well, absolutely. You can get the best out of each other. I mean, if you're in a boat together, it's all about being synchronized. And there's probably 3 things, isn't there? It's the technique, it's the physicality, and it's that mental approach. And if you're with a sibling, you could certainly get all 3 of those working.
Zuzanna Jasinska, closest to us in the Polish boats. There's the French ahead of them. Jasinska, the younger of the two, just 21 years of age, been racing a double in various combinations this season for the Poles. Neither of these two athletes were in the Olympics, but the French, as you'd expect for Olympic silver medalists, well out in front. They will look to get closer to the Italians and British in tomorrow's A final, which they will no doubt qualify for with just 500 metres left to go. The question is, the Germans able to make any distance up on the Poles? The Poles can't shake them off, can they?
No, the German double here in the front of our picture, their higher rating, you can see they've just held on to that overlap. So yeah, front of the field, France looking fantastic. Poland look good, they look confident, they look calm. But as you say, they have not shaken off the German challenge beside them. Then on the far side of the course, yeah, it's Norway and the Czech Republic. They're looking fairly distant at this point.
Yeah, there you can see the gap between Poland and Germany. It's about 10 metres. It is possible to make up that gap, but the Germans have been right at the top range of their rating, haven't they, throughout this contest, and probably won't have a lot left in them for the finish. There's the gap, and the Poles are stretching it out. I think Germany probably won't make it now, so it does look like France and Poland to be the two qualifiers for the A final.
Yeah, I think you say the Germans have been on the red line for quite a long time, and having been just up going as hard as they could for so early. The Poles were calm, and now you can see the Polish crew are just looking still in control. They've never looked not in control of this second place. And I think the Germans have gone too hard too early. They've given it everything they can, but I can't see them now getting through to take that second place.
Yeah. So the French, coached by Frédéric Perrier, move serenely towards the finish line. The Poles, well, their coach, Mike Kozlowski, will be looking on from the bicycle, pretty pleased with what he can see, why they've kept ahead of the battling Germans. They really have thrown everything in, the Germans. They're still throwing everything in to come up towards the finish. Just won't quite make it, though, unfortunately. French take one of the A final places on offer. Beauvais and Tarantola, and Vellner and Jasinska just get that second place ahead of the battling Germans. Norway and the Czechs coming in.
So it's interesting to see those Poles there. Like I said, they look pretty calm, they look pretty in control, but you can see how hard they're working, sort of behind the sunglasses, behind the calm exterior. This is the Germans. I mean, you could tell they were working when you see pictures like this.
Would you say they were trying too hard? It looked a bit like the Irish style of racing, as opposed to fluid and
Yeah, I think you could look at those blades, couldn't you, in slow motion and say, no, they're not quite holding them in the water as well as they could do, not quite as efficient as they could have been. And that's why we probably ended up with that result. But you see, it's the French and the Polish who will go through to the A final, and the rest will go to the B final.
So that was the first repechage. 2 A final places on offer, and we are off to the start for the second repechage. See which two crews will join the A finalists. Denmark, Norway, Switzerland.
I don't think that's the right one. That was the men's graphic. We got the women's race first.
Here's the women's graphic. So let's run through. Austria at the top of your picture. Denmark, the Irish, Heafy and Kramen, the Swiss, Mertz and Rahl, the Spanish, Lau Sanchez and Navarro. It is the Irish who are leading as we go back live with the race. Just Tiefenthaler and Kavala. The Austrians, just to give a name track, and Persson and Mork Pettersen from Denmark. They are in lanes 1 and 2.
And it was the Irish who had the lead through 500. Pretty tight, though, for those other places. Only Austria, who were 3 seconds back at 500 gone. So, again, 2 to qualify. Ireland looking solid and confident at the front. They're 34 strokes a minute, but let's take a look and see how it looks across the rest of the field.
Another of these Irish crews, coached by Dominic Casey. Margaret Kramen, well, there's the Swiss combination. Frederic Roll, the 29-year-old, they're both 29. Patricia Mertz, Frederic Roll from French part of Switzerland. They're coached by Robin Dow, who we saw yesterday, who's the British coach working with Janine Gemelen.
And he's got them moving pretty nicely together, hasn't he? When you see those blades going in and out of the water. This double was 7th in Tokyo at the Olympic Games, so they'll be wanting to make sure they get to that A final here at the European Championships. To do it, they need to keep this Spanish double behind them, who we can see 35 strokes a minute currently, and they're occupying that 3rd position.
And Navarro in the stroke seat, she's only 21. Coached by Marcos Morales Sarmiento. And it looks like the Spanish trying to move back on the Swiss. And I think you can hear the shouts of the coaches there. They get really excited, as you would do. I guess you spend a lot of time with your crews following. And that's the shouts of the coaches on the bank. There's the Irish double. Margaret Craman in the stroke seat was in the Olympics with Aoife Casey that we just saw in the lightweight women's singles. She's got a new partner, Lydia Heafy, 24 years of age, and this is the lightweight women's double scull, the Olympic class event.
We're talking about what good technique looks like, and you can see that they're going for it aggressively, but they are just holding the blades under the water. They're getting connected early, and I think there's a cleanness and an efficiency about this Irish boat, which is helping them in perhaps the way we saw that German boat weren't quite able to do in the previous race.
Get a real idea of the surge from the leg drive from that reverse angle shot that we just saw as the athletes come up to the 500 metres to go mark. It's a great race, it's a contest. I think, you know, the far side, Austria and Denmark, probably out of it for the first 2 places, but that number 4, the Swiss, edging back on the Irish, but that number 5 from the Spanish, from Lau Sanchez and Navarro, still in the picture, 3/4 of length behind.
Yeah, the Spanish have been doing plenty of looking to their right. Now they need to do some responding. They're keeping an eye on what's happening. They could still do it. I mean, let's see, 350 metres to go now. It's going to take a big lift from this crew. They're at 36 strokes a minute. The Swiss beside them are only at 34. So will they be able to close this gap?
Rocio Lau Sanchez, the bow woman, looking over. That's her target. She's urging her partner, Anna Navarro, on. And they are edging back on the Swiss, but I think at the rate of progress, it's not going to be enough in the last 250 metres. And I don't foresee the Swiss losing their cohesion, losing their rhythm, not with those cowbells ringing in the distance.
No, they look pretty cohesive. They look still pretty well together. They're putting pressure on the Irish, aren't they? We're having to respond. So it's the Spanish pushing the pace on. But like you said, Martin, I think the finish line's going to come too fast at this rate of progress.
They've shortened up a bit, the Spanish, haven't they? They've really tried to raise the sprint.
Yeah, well, they're at 43 now, so they've shortened up to try and get more strokes in. But they're getting more strokes in, but they're not going any faster. They're not getting any distance per stroke on that. It's just not working for them. And in fact, the 2 lead crews are actually going away now.
So that's the Irish. Still got that metre or 2 metre lead over the Swiss. The Swiss coming back through the Irish, but I think the Irish will prevail as they come up to the finish line. Will it be the Irish? Oh, I think it was the Irish just over the Swiss.
I think it was. They're definitely clear, aren't they? The Spanish were brave, but just didn't quite have what they needed. Obviously, you can see Denmark coming there, and it's Austria at the top of the picture.
So, Ireland, the winners, did just get that nudge on the finish line. And got just a lovely cup of coffee in front of us from our German helper here in the production.
Yeah, we're being very well looked after here by all the volunteers and the support team here. So yeah, we've had a cup of coffee delivered to us about halfway through the session.
Great racing here this morning in the European Championships on the Munich Olympic course. Confirmation of that result, just 0.03 of a second between Ireland and Switzerland on the line. They're the 2 crews that go through to Final A. Spain, Denmark and Austria will contest Final B, and we will go up to the start of the lightweight men's double sculls. Again, 2 crews through to the A final from Denmark, Norway, Switzerland, Great Britain and the Ukraine. Italy and Ireland already through from yesterday's heats. Here's a replay of the starts, pretty smooth.
Yeah, Ukraine really got into that on the second stroke, didn't they? It was one of the shortest strokes I've ever seen, really, the second stroke they took.
Yeah, I think it took them out a little bit from the rest of the field as well.
But now we've moved up to real time, and it's the Swiss who led through 500. Ukraine were pretty well up with them, but then they've just opened that gap up just a little bit. And let's remember, it's 2 to qualify, and Great Britain are in between those two, and that's the lead 3 boats. Norway on the far side, Denmark at the top of the picture.
This Ukrainian double spent long seasons together, Igor Kamaro and Stanislav Kovalev. I seem to remember them making the European final when the championships were back in Glasgow. I think they had a 6th place finish there.
I've also got them as 9th in Tokyo at the Olympic Games.
Yeah, which is probably the more apposite qualification.
I don't know what apposite means, and I'm an English speaker, but I'm assuming it means relevant and important right now.
That's exactly what apposite means. And sorry if you're watching this and you're not quite getting all of our commentary, but we hope you're enjoying, nevertheless, the presentation of the Swiss crew with the young Raphael Ireland in the stroke seat from French Switzerland, Jan Schauberle, German-speaking partner. Been doing the double with Andre Struzner, but Raphael Ireland has had to cope with injury through the season. But this is a new Swiss double, coached by Ian Wright. And they've been looking really strong all season. These Ukrainians, so experienced. And the British...
We haven't really seen them in the picture at all, have we? Because it's been these two claiming these first 2 positions. Hopefully we'll get a little look across now. I don't see the rest of the field, but it's a big old gap, isn't it?
I don't understand what the Norwegians are doing out of the picture and why they're so far behind. They've had a great season, Lars Benske and Askiel Tom. Maybe they were just knackered from yesterday's race. They were really close up. Do you remember? We were talking about them yesterday. They were really in contact.
Yeah, I've written down here they took on, was it Portugal, and then blew up.
Yeah.
They got right up into that race, and then they had a real tough time at the end. So maybe they're still feeling that from yesterday.
So certainly would have expected them to be competitive with the Ukrainians for that 2nd place, but they're not going to be.
No, as it is, yeah, Switzerland looking fantastic, head of the field, very business-like, 38 strokes a minute, just making the most of the race, making the most of the conditions. Ukraine got away brilliantly from the starting gate and have really established themselves. Look at those distances you can see in the graphic. The Ukrainian crew so far clear of Great Britain and the other 2 crews.
He's got a lot of promise, that lad in the stroke seats. Rafi Ireland, Swiss stroke man, and a good partner with Jan Schauberle.
Well, they led the Irish Olympic champions yesterday, didn't they, in the heat before getting rowed through.
Yeah, that's well remembered.
So here they are with this pretty dominant performance here, getting the job done.
Disappointment for the Norwegian team that Lars Benske and Askiel Tom aren't in the first 2 places, but the Ukrainians won't worry about that. Stanislav Kovalev and Igor Kamara take that 2nd place ahead of the new British double, Jamie Copas and Dale Flockhart. Didn't see a lot of them in the race. They were the ones just behind Ukraine. That's the Norwegian buzzer just finishing. And Denmark crossed the line too. So we have our A finalists, 4 of our A finalists. We've got a 2nd repechage of this event with another 2 men's lightweight doubles to go through. Results, they're getting the results quickly, aren't they? Switzerland's 5 seconds ahead of the Ukraine, who are 5 seconds ahead of Great Britain, who will go to the B final together with Norway and Denmark. So, Estonia, Hungary, Portugal, the Czech Republic and Spain. Portugal beat the Norwegians yesterday in that close race. decent start from all 6 crews. That's a replay we're watching, and we will come back and hit the race with the leaders from the Czech Republic, the Tokyo Olympians, the veteran Miroslav Vrastil with the ginger hair in the stroke seat, Yuri Siminek behind him in the bow seat.
Yeah, no, Martin, I can't help having to say this out loud, but I can't help noticing it's the crews in 3, 4, 5 who seems to be doing quite well generally today, and crews in 1 and 2 doing less well generally. It's hard to imagine when you look at those conditions. It looks pretty fair across the course, but as it is for this race, we can only go 1 race at a time, and what we're seeing here is this double from Portugal, who were good yesterday and, as you say, pushed that Norway boat out. Are there in a centre lane, and they're well in this race. 2 to qualify, and it's the Spanish who are putting the pressure on them over here on this side lane in lane 5.
Itano Hotopombo closest to us in the stroke seat, Manuel Balestegui behind him, both in the Tokyo Olympics, took a win in the B final, those 2 Spanish. So the quality in this, and the Czechs were in the A final and finished 4th in that, just missed a medal. So that's the quality of these double sculls. And Portuguese new kids on the block, coach, well, Dua Costa, I guess, finished in the C final of the Olympics in the lightweight men's double sculls. Dinas Duarte Costa has come into the boat, coached by John West, British coach who coached you in the men's 8 in London, Greg.
Yeah, he did. John West now working with Portugal, and he'd be pleased to see that team crew of his hanging on to that 2nd position, and maybe even here we see them moving very nicely together, moving well, pretty aggressive, pretty good movement together, though it's pretty clean with that kind of aggression that you look like you can see sort of in the second half and middle of the stroke.
And these crews, they've got to, you know, they turned out a good race yesterday, they've got to turn out a good race today, weighing in an average of 70 kilos. The Portuguese just edging back on the Czechs, the Spanish just losing out now. I guess the Spanish would have expected that be slight favourites to be in the first 2 places, but
they picked up medals earlier on, haven't they, throughout this season? But there they find themselves looking to get pushed out and not be able to make this A final. Anything could still happen, but as you say, the gap is getting bigger, and Portugal here are looking as they have done throughout, which is not making it look easy, do they?
No.
But they're giving it plenty.
I'll tell you, I'm impressed with that Czech double, the way they've covered the move of the Portuguese, just edged away from them, the experience of the 39-year-old Vrastil in the stroke seat. He's a former he likes to do triathlon as well. He's done an Ironman triathlon, Vrastil, in quite a decent time as well. You'd think for a lightweight he'd be good on the bike and good on the runs.
Yeah, you can imagine that, can't you? And like you say,
there he is, Miroslav Vrastil.
In the bow seat?
No, the stroke seat, the ginger-haired guy.
Okay.
Yeah. 4th in the Olympics. Nice double for the Czech Republic. It's their top boat now, I think he's their top, that'd be their top boat now. Andrei Sinek has retired.
He does look like he's really leading that, doesn't he? 39 strokes a minute they're going at now, just those hands kind of coming out of the finish and getting back onto the next stroke really nice and cleanly. And that's helped them to make a move out that they've just about got a little bit of clear water now.
Is that John West I can hear screaming from the bank? Was he a shouter, coach?
I'm not sure if you'd pick him up. You've obviously got your course effects turned up nice and loudly that you can hear the coaches shouting, the cowbells ringing, the screams on the finish line.
There was someone that's really giving it some on the bank there, one of the coaches, and I can see John West. And I think John does get carried away, and maybe he's urging them back on the Czechs, but the Spanish, you can see there are some 20 or 30. They've given up the game, really, the Spanish, haven't they? They've realised they're not going to compete with the Portuguese. These are the 2 crews to qualify. And the Czechs come up smoothly to the line. Job done for them. They move into the A final.
as you say, good performance from the Czechs, picking up that first place. Portugal, I think, will be very pleased, securing the second place, and it is the Spanish who are not going to make it over here. And then on that far side of the course is Hungary and Estonia, who also will be contesting the B final.
Yeah, really clinical job, I think, by the Czechs. Spanish missing out in third place, go to the B final. Time's around, what, about 46, 47 seconds slower than world's best time pace. Czechs and Portugal go through to the A final. Spain, Estonia go to the B final. So here's the repechage from the women's single sculls to get into the semi-final. Gaia Cossate, Alexandra Foster, surprised to see her in this race. Victoria Senkute and Nina Kostancek from Slovenia. The reason we're surprised is Alex Foster sort of in lane 2 there. Lane 1's at the top of your picture in the yellow boat. She was the Lucerne winner with a fantastic sprint finish, but looked very pedestrian yesterday. So she looks better today. Under 23 world champion, Lucerne Open champion this year in 2022.
Yeah, that's right. We were just wondering whether she'd just done a lot of racing and it had all come along quite quickly. That, as you say, yeah, she's only 20 years old. She won in Lucerne. She won in Varese at the under 23 world champs just a couple of weeks ago. But here she is, looking pretty calm and pretty in control of this. 30 strokes a minute. She was leading through 500 by 2 seconds from the cruise to her left. She's opened that gap up a little bit more now, and yeah, that looks kind of quite calm and, like you say, sort of business-like.
From Ruder Club Mescheda, EV in Germany, coached by Sebastian Kleinsgordon. So this is Nina Kostancek from Slovakia.
Slovenia.
Slovenia.
Oh, Slovakia. No, it's Slovenia, isn't it? Slovenia, yeah.
Slovenia, yeah.
I was thinking that familiar kit with a little mountain emblem somewhere on there for Slovenia.
Yeah, I called Slovakia for a previous race. Thanks for pointing that out, Greg. And just going bow ball to bow ball with Victoria Senkute from Lithuania. There she is, Senkute, the 26-year-old Lithuanian.
And interesting to see the Lithuanian there. We've seen good Lithuanian scullers here, and she looks like she's on quite a tough gearing, but at 29 strokes a minute compared to the sort of freedom and ease of the Slovenian sculler that we were seeing.
We were talking with Laszlo Pivac, the coach of Victor, the Serbian sculler, who didn't do so well yesterday, and he'd eased the gearing because of the headwind conditions. We had that conversation, but the lad Victor Pivac couldn't really move his boat too much with the easier gearing, even in the headwind conditions.
Yeah, and it's interesting because this headwind is definitely blowing. I hope it's not a cross headwind on the course. Hard to tell, obviously, from our TV position here. But yeah, the Slovenian sculler you've seen now with in the second 500, she made a pretty nice move there. And she is just ticking along, as we say, with that easier gearing like we were talking about in that conversation yesterday. 34 strokes a minute, as opposed to both the scullers to her right, who are more like 29 strokes a minute. So yeah, just a bit of a different choice about how you approach it.
So Alexandra Foster out in front. There's the Slovenian sculler, Nina Kostancek, in a third place, qualifying, or second place actually. She's in good second place, 29 strokes a minute. And 32 strokes a minute. Who was I looking? 29. Senkutes at 29.
Yeah, so no, she takes a little look to her right there. Yeah, the Slovenian sculler. And yeah, I mean, it's a tricky little one, this, because it is 3 to qualify in this race. So it's just the race not to be last. So it's a case of having a look over there onto that far side, the Italian sculler, Colostante, who's looking reasonably well out of it at that 39 metres that you can see. So now you've just got to decide, are you going to keep it ticking and try and protect the second position?
And if you're watching this presentation of the European Championships, you can check out on the worldrowing.com website the quotes from athletes. I've got one from Donata Karoline, the Lithuanian, who rowing with her younger partner, Dovile Rimkute, basically gave a quote, lately young athletes inspire me a lot. It's such a beauty to see young talents growing and competing on such a level. Really happy to have Deville as a partner. She's a good stroke woman. And Simona Radis, the Romanian in that Bodnar and Radis double scull. We're going to fight for this. This is a kind of test for us. Tomorrow in the final we will give our best and hope that at the World Championship we'll reach a gold medal, because we don't have this medal and we want it so much. So 2 quotes, head on to worldrowing.com and you'll get more of them.
No, Martin, it's great to say that, because we're watching this race here and we've got Alexander Forster up there in a clear lead, 3 qualifying here. And yeah, we love commentating and bringing you these pictures, but yeah, if you look around elsewhere on that World Rowing website, it is great to pick up some of the quotes. I was looking yesterday, there's a nice quote from Ollie Zeidler talking about that start, that we sit here and we're not quite sure how to interpret it. And as he said, he's done thousands of starts on this course, and that one he did yesterday was probably the worst he's ever done. But he wasn't looking to place blame anywhere. It was just nice to be able to hear the athlete's view. And so, as I say, if you look on that website, and as you were doing now, Martin, the quotes are there, some good interviews and good information.
So back with the action in the repechage of the women's single sculls, 3 through to the semi-final, and it's Alexandra Foster in the lead. In second place, the Slovenian sculler, sorry about that mistake again, Nina Kostancek, held that second place through the race. In third place, Victoria Sencute, it's the Italian Gaia Colasante, who is back in fourth place, and for her the regatta will be over unless something dramatic happens. But we look out to the finish line, there's only a couple of 100 metres to go for Alexandra Foster. Looks very easy, doesn't she, now?
Yeah, she does look very easy. Hopefully this will be a race that she needed. As we thought yesterday, she just looked a bit short of zip, short of like that little change of pace that you kind of need. Unlike this sculler, the Slovenian has had no shortage of change of pace, and is now comfortably in that second position.
Yeah, decent crowd here this morning on the far bank, and the applause from parents and supporters and athletes watching, more than there were yesterday. 3,000 tickets sold for the finals day on Saturday and Sunday. There you see the crowd on the far side. Foster takes the win from Germany. Stanchek takes second place for Slovenia. And Sencute takes the third qualifying place. And the Italian Colasante, her regatta is done now.
So as you talk about the crowd there, I can't help letting my eyes drift over to the flags as well and try and pick up what those conditions are like. It looks like it's just a gentle headwind, not as strong as yesterday. The flags are fluttering. Nothing to disturb scullers like Forster, who looked like she enjoyed her outing today, kept it pretty steady the whole way. You see that crowd that you spoke about there.
Yeah, it's nice to see them on that far side, and they're going to be more in for the finals. So Alex Foster takes the win. Nina Kostancek comes in second place for Slovenia. So this is a preliminary race. So these will race the final, Slovenia, Turkey and Hungary. So this is their first go at racing. So preliminary races give the athletes a chance to race. So Slovakia, Turkey in the middle and Hungary on this near side.
And that's Slovenia in lane 1.
Thank you very much.
And now we got Hungary that we're picking up. So yeah, Hungary were winning through 500 gone. They were winning through 1,000. And we love watching these Hungarian pairs. Plenty of rate, plenty of aggression, probably quite easy gearing, so they can get the strokes in. Yeah, this one, as you say, Martin, it's just a preliminary race. So they'll race for medals later on in the regatta. But this is for positions and for a bit of pride.
Well, the Hungarians won this event in 2021 at the Europeans, and it's an interesting choice to have lightweight men's pairs because no sweep rowing in the Olympics, so that's why there's only 3 crews in this event. they all have to weigh in at the average of 70 kilos. But, you know, you don't see any of the big countries really have a lightweight men's sweep program anymore.
No, you don't see the big programs don't tend to do it. So it's interesting that we have, Hungary, Turkey, and Slovenia here. You wonder how these guys fund their programs. But here we see this Slovenian pair, very wide grip from the stroke man there in the Slovenian pair.
Yeah, what do you reckon to that? Sometimes I find my inside hand might slip down the handle, but you know, not as wide a grip as that. The Slovenian strokeman Jaja Maselchik in the stroke seat.
Certainly didn't look that comfortable, but does look pretty decent in the Hungarian pair with 500 to go.
Actually, I think his name is Malesic, Jaka Malesic, 23 years of age. So I'm not sure if this is an event at the World Championships as well. Maybe it is still an event at the World Championships. I know the Hungarians won at the Europeans, but going back, yeah, it is an event at the World Championships. In 2019, the Hungarians finished 4th at the World Championships. So we will see them, no doubt, in the Czech Republic for the World Championships in September, the Repechage course. And the deal is between the 2nd and the 3rd place crew, Turkey and Slovenia. Is it on that far side? That
it is.
Only 2 crews will get a medal. So if you want a FISA or European Championship medal, a World Rowing medal, you have to finish in the top 2. Otherwise, you don't make the podium. And the Slovenians are trying to get back on the Turkish pair of Enes Yenipalazzi and Bariran Somnes, 2 experienced athletes.
We saw their backs there. They were moving pretty well together and trying to hold off the Slovenians. So we're looking to have a little charge. Slovenians up at 39 strokes a minute. Turkey trying to hold them off. And then at the front of the field, Hungary now just enjoying the final few strokes into the line.
Yeah, the Slovenians trying to get through the Turkish pair. They know that they will have to get in front of them in the final. This is a demonstration race, preliminary race we call it, which the Hungarians are about to cross the line first in. And the Turkish pair, you can see those flags. Are they rowing a crosswind, Greg? What do you think? Is it?
Well, when you see those flags like that, they look like it may have turned more cross than head, which is really just the concern that I've got looking across there. But as I say, again, so difficult to tell just from our commentary position what those conditions are doing on the water. But confirmation there, Turkey it is who are 2nd. They held on to that position. You can see it in the bottom corner. Hungary were clearly out in front. And this is that Slovenian pair who are going to have to figure out how to get a little bit faster before they come to that main race later on in the regatta. Oh, it's a nice picture we haven't seen before.
Wow, loving that.
Disappearing.
Yeah, that's a great shot from the camera at the start, isn't it? Of those 2 Hungarians.
And I suspect as the regatta gets on, we'll have bigger gaps between the races, so we'll get more of these kind of pictures
yeah.
that we'll be able to show you later in the regatta. For now, we don't have that time and space in the programme.
You can see the plastic green grips that the athletes connect their hands with the oar. Confirmation. First 2 crews in that preliminary race, Hungary and Turkey. Slovenia just missed out at 3rd place. So here's the repechage to get into the semi-final. The first 2 will make it. So Bahman Nasri, Victor Pivac, Serbian sculler, and Quentin Antonioli from Monaco, Eskil Borg from Sweden, and Andrei Yamsa. And there's Antonioli, been studying at Oxford Brookes, raced at Henley this year in the Diamond Sculls.
And as you said it, Martin, it's 2 to qualify here. This to get into the semi-final, and it's Antonioli, the sculler from Monaco, who was leading through 500. Victor Pivac, who you mentioned earlier, we spoke to yesterday. He's in our hotel. He was in 4th place through 500. And it's actually the scullers on this side from Sweden and Estonia who are in that second and third position. So we'll take a look now through 1,000. You can see it is that Swedish sculler who's got that second place, and Victor Pivac over there in lane 2 has got work to do in the second 1,000 if he's to get into the second qualifying place.
Antonioli, really experienced, finished 15th in the Olympic singles. There's a Swedish sculler, Eskil Bork. He was in the double the last running of the European Championships. Swedish rowing in a bit of rebuilding process, coached by Marco Galloni. And we haven't seen so many fast Swedish scullers since, I guess, the 2012 Olympics was the last edition, when the Swedish sculler finished 4th just behind Alan Campbell. There's Victor Pivac, is it, from Serbia. Looks like he's struggling a bit. He's moved his gearing out from the easier gearing he had yesterday. I was hoping that would do the job for him, coached by his dad, Laszlo. And this is quite an important race for him because selection for the World Championships depends on it for the former Husky.
Yeah, it's not looking easy for him out there on that far side of the course out in lane 2. It's looking pretty comfortable for Antonioli from Monaco here at the centre of the course, centre of the picture, and with that nice lead over the sculler from Sweden. These two sitting at 32 strokes a minute and 30 respectively, and looking fairly comfortable in those two positions.
I think he's doing a Masters at Oxford Brookes, Antonioli, coached by Giovanni Calabresi, the former Italian.
Oh, is he?
Yeah.
From Gavarati?
Yeah, that's
oh, lovely
right.
bloke. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, he's a really nice guy.
And he's coaching, is he? How have they come to that arrangement?
I do not know.
Yeah, yeah. Does he train in Varese, Gavarati area?
Well, he's been rowing at Oxford Brookes, hasn't he?
Do you know if he rows with the Brooks squad?
He has been rowing with the Brooks squad,
okay.
I think. That's right. And someone can tell us on social media, Twitter, at Mark Crossy or at Greg Searle 2012.
I guess what we do know is that Oxford Brookes run 8s more than they run sculling boats, really, so it's kind of interesting. But you could have thought a good winter training with a big squad might be what you want if you're then going to get into your single and then go and race internationally.
So Quentin Antonioli from Monaco will be one of the 2 scullers to take a semi-final AB place. It's behind him, the back of Barmen Nazari, the sculler from Azerbaijan, head down, trying to get through Victor Pivac, the Serbian sculler, which he has done. Pivac dropping back. And Pivac really best known as a pairs rower. Place in the Serbian pairs is taken, so Victor is here in the single. Not going to qualify for the AB semi-final, have to go through to the C final.
Looking at the Azerbaijan sculler, you know, from this angle you wonder whether he's going to get up to the Swedish sculler. I'm afraid, looking out of the window, I don't think he is. It's just a bit deceptive on the picture. You can see the sculler from Monaco, Antonioli's looking pretty good. Borg from Sweden is going to get the second place, and Nasiri from Azerbaijan has left it too much too late, I think.
Antonioli comes up to the finish line to take the win. A semi-final place is his, as is that for Eskil Borg. And the Azerbaijani sculler Barmin Nasri takes 3rd place. There's Quentin Antonioli. It's Filippi, reverse wing boat. Lovely shot, nice smooth pickup.
Yeah, there's a calmness about that, isn't there?
Only two men's singles repechage, I beg your pardon, to get into the semi-final. We have a second one. This is the first one, confirmation of those results. Antonioli and Bork go through.
Oh, and the others are going to have to do C-D semi-finals to sort out who makes the C final.
Whoa, lots of racing.
Yeah.
snappers on the start. The second Repechage, Danny Friedman from Israel, Jordi Sencales from Spain, Philippe Matei-Fifa from Slovenia, Scott Baylocker from Switzerland, Victor Chabal from Poland, and Matteo Sartori from Italy. Italian sculler closest to us, and Danny Friedman from Israel on the far side. And it's Danny Friedman the camera picks up on straight away. That's distinctive green boat.
Well, it was Friedman who was leading through 500. It's 151 again. Remember, it's only 2 to qualify. It's pretty tight across the rest of the field. Only 2 seconds across the entire field after 500. But you can see now, coming towards the 1,000, that field has spread out a bit.
So Jordi Sencales from Spain, 25-year-old, coached by Carlos Grabulosa Aguilera. Got a final finish, finished 5th in Lucerne, so he has got the pace on him. And Scott Baylocker from Switzerland tracking him all the way. You can see the Swiss blades, can't you, with the white cross on the red background. But it's very, very close. The only one off the back is a Slovenian, Philippe Matei-Fifa, and it looks like Danny Friedman is in that strong qualifying position. There's Victor Chabal, Polish sculler.
Still plenty to go, though, because this is a gentle headwind that they're racing into. The fairness side of me is pleased to see that there's really no pattern here in terms of anyone looking like they're being favoured on one side of the course or the other.
Sense any one of these, if they can just put together a kind of great third quarter. We're in the middle of it now. That, you know, the race might be theirs, the second place will be theirs for the taking. Scott Baylocker is in that second place at the moment, and he's edging closer to Danny Friedman.
But you know that within a single, you know, a length is a sort of distance that can easily be moved in the last 500. So you want to have more than a length if you're going to be sure of retaining that position.
Friedman looks like he's working quite hard, and I think Baylock is coming back to him. And the Italian Matteo Sartori has had a look across there, and he's half a length off making the AB semi-final.
Yeah, there's plenty to happen in this one still. This is looking good.
Jordi Sencales, the Spanish sculler, still in contact, but just losing a little bit of traction on the field. Scott Baylocker is in that second place now.
Well, look at Baylock. Look what's happened to the Israeli sculler. Friedman's
like
completely blown.
Hard.
You
well
called
spotted,
it. You said
yeah.
He looks like he's working too hard. It's gone from first to last. Wow.
So that's opened up the race completely. Scott Baylocker now is in first place. Sartori is in second place. What that means is Jordi Sencales has got to get through the Swiss or the Italian to make an AB semi-final place. Oh, he's finished. He's so frustrated with himself, isn't he? Oh, look at that.
Yeah, that's funny, the way he went out so strongly. And it doesn't look like he's had a problem.
I just looked
here.
at
Look, we're looking at even... Oh, we're not in replay, but look how the race is still opening up. The Swiss sculler now looks like he could get caught. As you said, it's Sartori at the bottom of the picture looking good. Anything could happen here.
Well, Geoffrey Sencales is the form sculler if you go by the Lucerne World Cup results. And Scott Baylocker has been working very hard in this race.
Oh, the Slovenian's coming back as well.
Through. Wow, what a finish from the Slovenian. 250 metres to go. Only 2 of these scullers will go through. There's 4 boats in a line.
This is turning into our race of the day. I think the Italian Sartori's done. He's looking to his right, desperate for the finish line to come, but it's the speed in lanes, well, 2 and 3 over there, the Slovenian and the Spanish sculler.
Where has he got that from? The 23-year-old Slovenian Pfeiffer is absolutely blasted through. The Italians found a sprint finish. Jordi Sencales hasn't got anything left, has he?
He's gone again, the Italian. I called him out of it. He's gone again, found some more. There's still a bit left in this race.
He's sprinting. The Italian's gone up to, what, 44, 45?
Yeah, he is, 44.
Oh, wow. That's a sensational finish. The Italian is going to win, get an AB. What a race. What a fantastic contest. The Italian knows he's won, just slightly eases off. Second place goes to that charge we saw from the Slovenian Pfeiffer. Jordi Sencales sculled out of it.
Well, what a bizarre race.
Whoa.
I mean, we said it with about 750 to go, anything could happen here.
Yeah.
And, when you say those words, you're sort of hoping it might. And really, everything happened in the last 750 of that race. I think he doesn't know quite what's happened. Pfeiffer, the Slovenian sculler.
No, he doesn't. And he had to really search. Well, let's see. That was a race to remember. Oh, look at that. So there's Danny Friedman on the far side, and he's just going backwards, isn't he?
It doesn't look like anything happens, though. He just more or less packs up, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does.
I was wondering whether he might catch a buoy or something like that, but he didn't. He just ran out of steam.
And we got the Swiss sculler there, Scott Baylocker.
Yeah, who you were sort of saying, he looks pretty solid, he's going to get the second qualifying place.
Sartori looking across. Yeah, that's a race win at the European Championships for you.
And that is the repechage that gets him into the AB semi-final. So there's still plenty more to go. He's made it into the top 12 so far.
God, no, after a race like that, so Matteo Sartori and Filip Matej, Pfeiffer from Slovenia, go through. Jordi Zafras Enchiales has to go through to the CD semi-final with Scott Baylocker, Victor Chabal and Danny Friedman. I think we call that fly and die, Danny Friedman's tactics.
It was. He was very brave. He took it out and then just, did seem to just run out of beans. So PR1 single sculls. You can see the lineup there. We've got, the scullers from Poland, Hungary, Israel, Great Britain and Spain.
So this is a replay, I think, of them off the start.
It is. Replay from
Ben
the start.
Pritchard's
4 to qualify here.
blasting
Again.
out. So it's a race you want to be in the first 4 or avoid being in last place. Ben Pritchard's leading, the 30-year-old. I think he was recently at, they had a para race at Versuman, the French course where the Olympics will be, and I think he saw Roman Polyansky there, was on that course for the first time of asking, and I think Ben Pritchard beat the Paralympic champion, Roman Polyansky, who qualified directly from yesterday. And Ben Pritchard was in that race yesterday with Perini, wasn't he, the Italian?
Yeah, and he did a fast time yesterday, Ben Pritchard, so not surprising to see him leading this repechage. And it'd be interesting to see how he goes tomorrow.
So we're coming up to halfway in this race. Shumel Daniel from Israel. There's Ben Pritchard. So Ben's story, he was a former cyclist and triathlete. Became paralysed from the waist down after a cycling crash in September 2016. And indoor rowing was part of his rehab at Stoke Mandeville Hospital. And British rowing quickly, they're very good with their para development squads, aren't they? And they kind of look for athletes, potential athletes.
Very well organised squad. The British, as we know, and the para squad, as you say. Ben Pritchard found his way into that programme. It's got to be probably about 4 or 5 years ago now. We first saw him. Yep. I think, was it in Linz?
Yeah, I think so. Finished. Where did he finish in Linz? 4th in the World Championships back in 2019. There's the Polish sculler on that far side, Mike Brezko.
He's at 31 strokes a minute. He's currently in that last position. He'll be the one not to make it through to the A final.
Oh, he's in the last place, yeah.
You can see,
you can see on
there.
the graphics, 260 metres behind.
And Ben Pritchard just keeping it ticking along, really, 33 strokes a minute.
So you can see a very different technique from the Spanish parasculler, Javier Rea Munoz.
Yeah, it's a sort of shorter stroke, isn't it? More arms kind of stroke. Oh, he's just had a little push. It looks like he's almost just come off it.
He's just come off it.
Up at sort of 40 for a few strokes there. He's now come down to 29.
48 years of age. He's not far off your age, Greg.
He's not.
He's not.
So yeah, he's just giving it a little burst by the look of it at 40. He's now settled back into a sort of 30, as opposed to Ben Pritchard. He's just kind of steadily in his rhythm and churning it out.
Yeah, so that straight arm draw, you see mostly he's using his lats to connect muscles in the side. And because he's got spinal injury, this is for rowers who have no or minimal trunk function. So pretty much the main force that they have to apply is using their arms and shoulders. And as a result, they may have balance issues, which is why the sponsons are on the side of the boat, just in case they do have balance issues. Zsolt Peto from Hungary there. Big old guy, isn't he, Peto?
Yeah, he certainly is. And his technique just not quite as tidy as Ben Pritchard. He was just holding it a bit deeper, a bit longer. He was just coming a bit loose, wasn't he?
Yeah, he just missed out on para qualification, Zsolt Peto, last year.
What, to get to Tokyo?
To get to Tokyo, yeah.
Okay. You can see these conditions here, just see those waves. It's that gentle headwind, but I'm sure it's a lighter wind than yesterday. I think the Scullers will be having a better experience than they did yesterday, where they were really having to work into the head breeze.
So we want to talk about the boat and the setup. You can see that seat behind, and the seat that the athletes sit on. It has to be moulded completely to their backside, basically.
Yeah, and I had the privilege of being at Caversham recently, where the Great Britain team train, and yeah, I spoke to Ben Pritchard about the seat that he sits in, and they're looking to form one that's moulded to his body and get that correct, so it's as comfortable and as balanced for him, so he can apply his force as effectively as possible. And they're still working on that.
So I think that's second place sculler that we saw there, Shimel Daniel. You can see that mould of the backrest behind.
Yeah, that's right. So there's the backrest, and then there's the piece which he actually sits in alongside his legs there, and then that's all strapped into place.
Nice set of tats on his arms as well.
He does.
That's tattoos if you're not an English speaker.
Yeah, tattoos on his arm there. Ben Pritchard, as you say, he was, yeah, comes from a sporty family. His father did judo and rugby. His mother played netball. There he is, opening up a big lead. You can see the spread there across the field there. The 5 scullers all in one shot, 4 of them qualifying through till tomorrow.
Perini and Polyansky. Perini, the new kid on the block. There's a close-up of his tattoos on the arm there, his left arm. Ben Pritchard, great technique. Good model for anyone looking at how to arms and shoulders scull a Paralympic boat. And Ben's objective, a Paralympic medal in Paris in 2024. Maybe to try and win that event. Hard to see how anyone can get past Perini, the speed new kid on the block has come in with, but Pritchard coming up to line. It's been a decent workout for the Brit, hasn't it?
Yeah, it'll be a decent workout, and they are racing again tomorrow. The A final of this PR1 single is just around 11 o'clock or so tomorrow morning. But I think it's good to keep getting out and racing. You know, they want the experience when they get in the water. And keep growing experience. And Ben Pritchard, as we say, we've been watching him since 2019, and he's getting better race by race.
So Great Britain take the win, and applause from the crowds, which he acknowledges, and that is a big win. Second place, I think, as saw that graphic of confirmation, is Shimel Daniel, the Israeli sculler, Paralympic finalist, and that's very sporting. Look at Ben Pritchard staying to applaud the scullers. Great camaraderie amongst these para scullers, and a good example of it there. Shimel Daniel, the 6th place sculler in the Tokyo Paralympics. So pretty decent sculler, and that shows you how good or how fast Ben Pritchard is going.
Yeah, and I think Ben Pritchard's probably taking it easy a little bit. He was a bit slower actually than he was yesterday, where it's a bit more of a headwind.
So men's 4, this is the repechage. 2 crews through to the final A from this men's 4. 2 repechages, Italy, Ukraine, Poland, Denmark and Austria on this near side. Austria, Italy at the top of your pictures. And crews already through to the final from this. There's the Austrians, or the Polish. There's the Polish leading the crew. Piotr Justak, Lukas Poczyskaya, Mike Berder and Mateusz Wielęgowski in the stroke seat of the Polish boat.
And this Polish boat took off fast in the first 1,000 yesterday. They've done it again today. They were leading through 500. It's Italy on the far side who were with them. Those 2 crews continued moving out here, and yeah, we're 1 second apart at 1,000. They look like they're still about the same here, and yeah, really trying to make it clear of those 2 qualifying places.
It's not so long ago that we remember the Polish Berder and Wielęgowski in that Polish crew winning World Championships back in Linz in 2019. We just had a look at the Italians in 2nd place there.
That's right. The Polish surprised us that day, didn't they? Winning the Coxless 4 in Linz at the World Championships. Here we see them leading this repechage. Italy with them, and I wonder if any of the rest of the field can really come back with 500 to go.
Yeah, the Polish look nice and smooth, don't they? They had an early lead out, I seem to remember, in yesterday's heat. Couldn't quite maintain that pace through.
Yeah, that's right, they did. They took on that early lead. It's Ukraine, you can see beside them. They're the crew lying in 3rd place. They're the ones who are going to be trying to close the gap on Italy. But that lead is about 12 metres, as you can see from the graphic. So Ukraine have got a lot on if they're to get to that Italian crew. You just see the bow just coming into the side of the picture now.
Yeah.
Ukraine are desperately trying to come back. They're up at 39 strokes a minute, but so are Italy responding to them. I think Ukraine are moving.
Oklazenko, Mazurgrin and Selivanov in the Ukrainian boat. They are moving. There's just 250 to go. Don't think it'll be enough. The Italians, Gavini Codato, Monfrecola and Di Colandrea.
Well, here we see them sprinting for it, this Ukrainian boat. They're up at 40. Italy are up to 42. So it's the sort of thing where something could go wrong. Looking through my window with my eyes,
wow,
it's looking like it's getting closer.
That's so cool.
We're now coming alongside, and it's looking like Ukraine could still
They've
get
got the
through
momentum,
Italy.
haven't they? They've got the momentum. You're right, Greg. You called it. Absolutely spot on. Ukraine's bow go in front. The Poles out in the lead of this race to take one of the 2 qualifying places for the A final. And what a tremendous surge from the Ukrainians. Boy, will they celebrate. Poland take the win. Ukraine come through and take that. And the arms go in the air from Oleksiy Selivanov in the stroke seat. Haven't got the energy to do a big celebration. Poles are pretty happy.
Well, Poland were in control, weren't they? And then just were able to just look to their right and see that race going on beside them. Ukraine with a wonderful sprint finish in that last 500.
Sprint. And the Italians won't be in the A final.
Well, it's nearly 4 seconds that they've taken, that Ukraine took off Italy in the last 500 there. 4 seconds in 500.
It's a young crew, though, those Italian boats, just 22, 23. Monfrecola in the 3-seaters, 25. But
yeah, the Italians have been trying different combinations this year to get that Coxless 4 right. You can't help thinking they're going to keep looking for combinations.
Well, look at that. It was close, wasn't it? 6:29, 6:30 for Ukraine. They're the 2 qualifiers. Italy, they just couldn't keep it together in the last quarter. Second repechage, 2 boats through. Germany, Romania, Switzerland and Norway are the contestants in this second repechage. So there we go back to the start. Replay, good, clean. The Romanians, 3 of the silver medal, 4 for the Olympics, as you'd expect, jumping out early on. But it's not the Romanians leading. What is up with the Romanians, Greg?
Well, it's the Germans who are leading. They were leading through 500. They had 2 seconds on Romanians and the Swiss beside them. You can see now the way it's moved out as we're coming into this middle of this second 500. And Germany, who often underperform seemingly in the Coxless 4, today look like they might be getting it right.
So German crews, Thijs Hagemeister furthest away, Malte Grossman, Max John and Mark Kampmann in the stroke seat from the Hamburger and Germania Club, the 25-year-old. Now they're in a race with the Olympics, or 3 of the Olympic silver medalists from Romania. Just Florian Lahaci in the stroke seat out of the Romanian 8 in the Olympics, but he was in the final 2. This is a new Swiss combination. They had a decent go in the heat yesterday. You suspected they needed a repechage to get their act together. The likes of Roman Roigli in the Swiss boat in the 3 seat anchored the Oxford's boat in the boat race this year to a win. So the experience from the Tokyo Olympics.
Well, those 3 all in a line. We'll have a look here at this Swiss boat. They're looking pretty decent, and I can't help thinking they might move through the Germans, who went out so hard so early to try and get control of it. They've now seen the field come back at them, and you can see what a great race there with only 2 to qualify.
Yeah, the standard, I think, in this event is really high, and those crews yesterday we saw Great Britain qualify in 1 heat, winning the Netherlands in the 2nd heat. Went through these Romanians not on the best of their form, I think. These Romanian crew, they look a little bit tentative there. Coaches following on the bikes.
Trying to offer encouragement, trying to call a few tactics. The Romanians, like you say, there's the experience there, isn't there, from them, and they've moved really nicely there. With their, as you say, Olympic experience from Tokyo, just eased through in the important part of the race.
Well, this Swiss 4, coached by Ian Wright, have benefited from that experience, that tight race they had in yesterday's heat, where they lost out to Britain and Poland. Poland won the other repechage we've just seen, so Switzerland are going to benefit from that experience. It looks like the Germans, they're just being edged slowly out of it, and German 4 won't be in the final. And
well, it's funny, isn't it? Like we said with these German boats, I mean, they were 4th in Lucerne this crew,
that's right.
7th in Poznan, so it looked like they were going in the right direction, but it's just not quite working for them.
Yeah, I think that might be Sabine Schager, the coach of the German crew, giving them a shout.
Well, I don't know what she can say to them now, which is going to get them to turn this around, having been up like they were quite bravely. Yeah, a couple of seconds, 2 seconds lead at 500. The crew's level with them, and now everyone's come through. So we see them now. We've got a look in there, 38 strokes a minute, trying to put some more boat speed on it, but you can see the graphic showing you, and now you can see the pictures showing you that Germany are looking like they're being rowed out of this.
I mean, if you're the Swiss, you're a new crew, just put together, and you're half a length down on the Olympic silver medal boat, essentially, coming through with 2:50 to go. You've got to be pleased with that form.
Yeah, absolutely. You've got to be pleased with that form, and Romania are responding to it. 42 strokes a minute. They want to make sure they're sending signals out. They're testing themselves and making sure they're not going to get rowed through by this Swiss boat. But the Swiss are not taking it easily. And you can see, look how much these 2 have moved out on the Germans.
Yeah, they've
now.
moved out that head-to-head race. So 2 through from this repechage into the A final. And
yeah, you can see the stroke rates in the bottom corner. Romania 43. They've said, look, Switzerland, young pretenders, you're not coming through today, and made a big statement there to pull that back out to what's going to be a length by the time they get to the finish line.
Romania just win by the length. Switzerland come in seconds, more experience under their belt. Germans drift across the line, and Thijs Hagemeister falls back in the bow. They went out quick.
And we haven't mentioned Norway, but it's Norway who are going to be the 4th crew, just coming towards the line now. Today just wasn't their day.
No, it certainly wasn't their day.
So the Germans falling back in the boat, a lot of pain after going out that bravely that early. But yeah, it was this Romanian 4 who I guess held their nerve probably early on, then settled into their pace, and at the end they were going to make sure they made it clear this was their race.
So there's a reverse camera angle shot from the opposite side of the course that you're seeing. And I guess we'll have some more great pictures from our cameras here on the course. There's the Romanians just going toe-to-toe with the Swiss. Because the next race was due to be, if you tuned in to watch the Irish Women's 8 race, you may not have heard the news. The sad news that Sanita Paspura has had to withdraw. Let's just do the results. Romania and Switzerland take the A final places. Germany and Norway go to the B final. So Sanita Paspura has had to withdraw due to illness. Took her out of the Irish women's double earlier this morning, and it took her out of the Irish women's 8.
So as you're saying, Martin, it's a shame really, because we were expecting a repechage with 5 very strong women's 8s. But now you look at the head of the course there's no 8s there. No boats attached to the start. It was going to be Germany, Italy, Ireland, Great Britain and Denmark, with one crew to get knocked out. Of course, with Ireland effectively being eliminated because of injury, those other 4 will progress. And I wonder what that does really for those other 4 crews. What do you think?
I think it's really interesting. You know, you would have thought that those crews that haven't spent a lot of time together, I think, say for the British 8, their priority is probably the women in the pair and the 4. And an extra race in the 8 they might have welcomed that potentially.
Yeah, but with those women's 8s, a lot of them are doubling up, so we know they're rowing in 4s, pairs, even some in the double as well. So you know, they'll miss out on the experience of getting another run down the course, and that is a downside. They'll also get the recovery of going out paddling this morning, expecting to race, and then being told you don't have to race. Have you ever had that, Martin, where you turn up? Because often you do that, you turn up to race, you think, oh, I've got a big race, I'm really nervous.
At the German regattas, you used to do it, and everybody had to turn up at the start, and the starter would roll call. You'd all be milling around, and the starter would roll, you know, call your name, and you'd go, hey, I'm here. And then basically, depending on who turned up, you didn't know what heat you'd be allotted into.
Yeah. So it was back in the days before you were pre-allocating. So it was just like, all right, well, there's 6, you know, there's 8, and then we'll just put you into races.
Regattas like Salzgitter, and I remember the Germans not turning up. I think it might have been a crew with Peter Michael Colby even rowing in it, but a German sculler who was in a 4 for some reason. And they were late to the start and didn't turn up. And, you know, there was a smile on your face that you didn't have to race.
Thank goodness for that. Those people aren't here to race. Yeah. So, the Swiss, they probably know they're on screen. They've got that sort of look, haven't they? Of like when the camera pans around at a sports event, you see, oh, I'm on the screen. Yeah. It's not a kiss camera, which I'm not sure I'm complaining about. But, you know, whether we kind of go, right, you have to kiss each other or whatever you have to do. These guys whether they see themselves on camera, the French coaching team.
Yeah, it looks like. Is that Jürgen Grobler?
I don't think it is, is it? I was wondering if that was Jürgen Grobler, but of course he's moved across and is working as a sort of consultant within the French team. But yeah, we've got this little break now. The next race we're going to bring it's some C finals. So a couple of C finals.
Yeah, a couple of C finals, race for 13.
The men's pair.
And below.
Yeah, men's pair, men's quad.
Yeah, so we have got...
Oh, and then we've got semi-finals. So then we've got the semi-finals for the men's pair.
Yeah, we're looking at that grandstand. And actually, the European Championships have got some great entertainment here for crowds. So if you come down to the course, if you're listening and you're able to get to Munich, you'll be privileged to see a great show. Max Planner, former German world champion in the men's 8, is the announcer. You can hear his voice on the screen. And
it's good for rowing to be part of this multi-sport event, isn't it? The other events, athletics, canoe sprint, beach volleyball, cycling, gymnastics, plenty more going on. But we've got the men's pair C final we're going to bring you. Turkey, France and Switzerland. So this will be their last race, the regatta, 15 entries. And here we go, the Turkish pair.
There's the Turkish pair, Kaan Aydin and Aydin Sahin over there on the far side. Sahin closest to us with the sort of ponytail in the stroke seat. The pair's just being pushed out. There's the French champions, Etienne Juliet and Esteban Catul from the Verdun, Avion Verdanois, and Marin Langer, just with the curly hair there, and Jan Plotchik in the stroke seat, just clearing his nose over the side of the boat. Have a good one.
Yeah.
It's the Swiss.
Handshakes and full preparation. So we're going to get the whole of this race, we think. So that'll be good to see. Interesting to see they're on the water and they've got those orange clams on the gates, but they're not using them. So they've obviously made a decision. There's a headwind, and you can see it. We know there's a headwind, but it's not too strong that they want to ease the gearing. As we see the crews getting away. It was Turkey. It's got away really nicely as those shoes disappeared under the water. But this is the race for 13th, 14th and 15th place, and crews more or less in a line there.
Yeah, the Turkish bowman. Oh, well, there we look at the Swiss. He's only 21, actually, the Swiss bowman, Marin Langer. This crew coached by Ian Wright. We've just seen the Swiss 4 do well. These will be the guys behind the Swiss 4. The French are pretty much favourites to win this race, I would have thought.
Yeah, you said earlier that they won the French trials.
They won the French trials, and they look cohesive, they look smooth. I don't know whether this result will be good enough to see them in the World Championship team. You'd have thought they might find a bit more speed, a bit more time together.
Well, here we go. We're seeing them coming out towards 250, and then it's time to settle into something more of a race pace. We've got them still all up at about 38 strokes a minute. Turkish got away really nicely in the first 10.
I love these shots behind, Greg.
Yeah, so this
the launch
following launch.
Yeah, we'll have more of these shots as the regatta progresses and the distance between the races lengthens out, the time between each race.
Oh, you just saw the Swiss. We saw the Swiss stroke man there just catch the red buoy, which will just disturb them a little bit. You can see, interesting, yeah, rowing into the headwind. You get more of a feel for what it's like actually in the real conditions.
Launch, you do, don't you?
Yeah. Yeah, because
this
picture from the car at the side makes it look a bit easier than it really is out on the water.
So through the first 500 metres, it is the French pair, Julien and Catul.
The Swiss just again caught a blade there. Just a little wash came up as someone's blade just stayed in the water longer than it should.
So let's have a look at this Turkish pair. That's Aydin Sahin in the stroke seat, 23 years of age, rode in the European Championships in 2021, but 18 years of age, Kaan Aydin. Right new talent in Turkish rowing, picked up a silver medal in the junior men's Cox Fours back in the World Championships in Plovdiv last year. So definitely a crew for the future.
Yeah, and this Swiss pair we're seeing now, 35 strokes a minute. They're just bumping along, just looking a bit uncomfortable in that first 500. Hopefully they've got the boat now centred up in the lane, and we'll be able to just get back into their pace, because they'll be disappointed, I think, to have got up and then got rowed through by the Turkish.
I wonder what they make of the way that Ian Wright likes his crews to row, which is definite, you know, with the pause, the finish, and that kind of movement, quite quick up into the front, sort of front of the slide, just putting in the blades as the slide comes up. It's quite a definite front end movement, which is, I think he said, you know, in Australian crews, people like Jack Hargreaves and Alex Hill, they had the secret, so he'd put guys into the boat with them so they get the feeling of how he wanted to row. But there's nobody in the Swiss team that has got that magic feel.
Yeah, well, I mean, those things like magic feel and getting it from other people feels quite difficult to me, as to whether this stuff is sort of natural or whether it can be developed. But I'm sure he'll be looking to try and develop their feel for the boat generally, as we're seeing the French pair just looking pretty nice, pretty clean. We had another one of those shots from behind, and you can see that they keep the boat moving. They keep it pretty steady, don't do an awful lot to slow it down.
No, they kind of didn't have the greatest second half yesterday. They were kind of in contact through to about, I don't know, 1,400, 1,300 metres.
Yeah, and here we've got that following camera again. So again, you can get that kind of feel for the way the boat's moving. And like you say, it's It looks like the boat's moving nicely through the water. You can see the kind of level of balance and what have you in this picture that previously we could just see pitching around a little bit more with the Swiss boat.
Yeah, straight down the middle of the lane as well. But the Turks are coming back into it. And again, this problem that the French pair have had at the second half of their race. You know, they could have been competitive. In yesterday's heat, they were up there a little bit in the third quarter, but now they're getting sort of attacked again by this Turkish combination. Look across by Aydin Sahin there, and he will see them edging back on the French. I tell you, this will be a great win in the sea final for the Turkish pair. So just to let you know, if you've just tuned in, I'm Martin Cross. I'm working with Greg Searle. We are taking you through day 2 of the European Championships in Munich, and this is a sea final, first of our finals, so it's from places to 13, 14 and 15. At the moment the French are in 13th place, winning the sea final, but the Turkish are edging through them. Great battle on the far side of the course. The Swiss a little bit out of it. You can see them in red there on the left of your screen.
Well, here we go with 500 to go, and as you very rightly said yesterday, the French went out well but got rowed through in the third quarter. They've now completed the third quarter, and they've seen the Turkish crew come from about nearly a length behind to level, and now the French need to respond, otherwise Turkey are going to take over the lead from them. They're now bow ball to bow ball, and they're stroke for stroke, both 38 strokes a minute.
They look a bit upper body now, the French, don't they? Like they're really trying with the sprint. You know, they're sort of trying to lever that boat through. They've lost that smoothness they had early on. The Turkish look a little more fluid around the front end. They're not too much in the shoulders.
Yeah, it looks very easy sort of at the finish in the Turkish boat. The blades just kind of come in and go out. It's not like a big sort of pull. It's just very quick and easy in and out, keeping the blades in front of them. But having said that, what they're doing in the French boats responded to it.
Yeah. Definitely toe to toe, and the Turkish boat have got to find more.
But it's great, you can see it bottom left of the picture.
And the
You've
Swiss
got the
coming back into it now. What a sprint from the Swiss. Where have they come from?
Well, they found strokes per minute.
It.
They found strokes per minute, haven't they? You can see 42 strokes a minute. They've been biding their time. And they're by far the fastest moving boat on the water right now.
That is crazy. Where has that come from? What a sea final we're being served up with, Greg.
Well, here we go. 300 metres to go. Or no, 100 metres to go, and they're more or less level.
Amazing sprint from the Swiss. Can they keep it together? They've got a canvas or a deck on the other crews. Turkey and France level. Switzerland's going to win this sea final coming up to the line. It is the Swiss that take it. And it is Turkey that beat the French. Wow.
Who would have thought that with 500 to go or 750 to go? We were sure it was France who were going to win. In fact, it's Switzerland, who we were sure were going to be last, who've come through with a brilliant sprinting last 500.
Where did that come from?
And Turkey in the middle with silver, or second.
I would never have picked that. I was kind of picking the Turkish maybe to head the French, which they just did.
Well, the French just must be so disappointed that they looked so good for 1,000 and then faltered in the third quarter, and then have seen everyone come past them in the last 500.
Oh, that was a race, wasn't it?
Well, that's going to be disappointing for that French team, isn't it? With the Paris Olympics around the corner, the winners of the French trials are there in third place. And it's Switzerland who take the win in the sea final ahead of Turkey and then that French crew. They kept it exciting for us. It was good entertainment, a good full race. They did keep it really
exciting for us. So 2 boats in the sea final, 4 places, 13 and 14 in this Quadruple Sculls event, Sweden and Norway. It's a Scandinavian matchup. There's a replay of the start. Sweden, you can tell with them with the blue and yellow blades. In the white Philippi shell, Norway in the yellow Empaka shell. So we're going live with the Swedish crew. Emil Frudenthal, 27 years of age, in the stroke seat.
And as you say, it's a sea final, so just these 2 crews rating for 13th and 14th. Sweden were leading by 2 seconds at 500 gone. That gap we're going to see in a second as they come towards the 1,000 has moved up probably something like 3 or 4 seconds. That they've got that lead over Norway. It's a nice bit of clear water, and Norway are going to have to surprise us with something special if they're going to start turning this around.
Chris Brune up in the stroke seat of the Norwegian quad, out of that Norwegian lightweight double. I thought, you know, with likes of Brune, Solbakken and Helveg in the boat, the Norwegians that finished 9th in the Olympics. Admittedly, Olaf Tufte was in that boat, but the Norwegians would be a quicker crew in this quadruple scull. But they just haven't found their mojo. And Sweden, who, okay, so a lot of these Swedes did compete in the European Championships in Varese, in the men's quad that finished 14th and the men's double that finished 18th. But I would have taken the Norwegians, if you'd have asked me before this, to head the Swedes, and they just can't be competitive with them.
No, as we see, the coach is there alongside.
I think that is Marco Gallone.
Alongside the Swedish quad. Yeah. And
Norway moving back.
Norway have responded, haven't they, in this third quarter? But yeah, like you say, you would expect maybe to see the Norwegian quad with that foundation from the crew that did compete at the Olympics, doing better than they are here. But here they are, giving it the best they can in this sea final, giving it the best they can in this third quarter. They're stroke for stroke. They're both at 36 strokes a minute, and they've made a move back at least, because it was clear water at 1,000. It's now about 3/4 of a length.
Yeah, well, that'll give the Norwegian team some heart, you know, if they can row down the Swedes, because that was a pretty decent gap that the Swedes have built up. But it is so motivational when you're in that position and you feel you're moving on a crew and you can give those signals, you know.
Well, it was 4 seconds the gap at 1,000. It was 2 seconds the gap at 500 to go. So if Norway can keep moving at the same pace, they'll take back another 2 seconds, and they will get that bow in front. And so far, so good if you're in that Norwegian quad.
Yeah, and if this is the crew that's going to be there for the World Championships, you know, they've just come down off their altitude training. We were talking about that with the Norwegians, 250 metres to go. Norway moving through into first place through their fellow Scandinavian rivals from Sweden.
Yeah, and I wonder if Sweden will have a sprint finish now. It must be so difficult for them to have got rowed through. You just think it doesn't look like there's really anywhere for them to go here. I'm sure they've done everything they can to try and hold the move of Norway, but really Norway have just kept coming and coming in this second 1,000, and that gap now is just getting bigger with every stroke.
Well, if Olaf Tufte's watching this, we hope you're enjoying this presentation of the European Championships from Munich in 2022. Here's the Norway crew. Okay, they're back in the sea final, 13th place, but they're winning it, which didn't look likely in the first 1,000 metres of the race. Norway take the win, Sweden finish in second place. 6:26, that's just about 50 odd seconds slower than the world's best time in these headwind conditions.
And it looks like the headwind's picked up now, looking at those flags on the other side of the course, seeing Sweden there. Confirmation they've got that 14th place, because Norway, as we saw, held their nerve probably and came back in the second 1,000.
It looks like Chris Brune up in the bows, I'm thinking, but it's not on my name tag as...
So in a second we're going to move up to the start, but we'll have some men's pairs semi-finals. But let's just confirm that result, that it was Norway who claimed 13th place ahead of Sweden. We've got 4 races left for you. They're all semi-finals. So
Wow.
this first one is the semi-finals of the pair. You can see it: Hungary, Slovenia, Serbia, Romania, Lithuania and Austria. And these are 3 to qualify for the A finals.
So a replay, we go back to see the start. Austria, Siegfriedsberger and Bachmann on this near side. We'll go to the live race shortly, and it is the crew from Lithuania, Dovydas Stankiūnas and Domitas Stankiūnas, two brothers, 22, Dovidas in the bows, 24, Mantas in the stroke seat, going toe-to-toe with the Romanians.
Well, the Lithuanians were fast starting today. They led out through 500. Yesterday, they led the British pair, who ultimately came through, and they led them out through about 1,100 metres. They've gone out early here. They've gone with Romania. Romania now, as we can see, have taken on the lead. They're still up in the stroke rate. Romania 39 strokes a minute through 750. And interesting to see it, Serbia, who again another strong crew. The Serbians made the A final at the Tokyo Olympics, will be desperate to make the A final here, and they want to make that third position their own. This is those Lithuanians, and you can see Serbia there starting to move in. I wonder if Serbia will get back and get an overlap with Lithuania.
Yeah, they look very lively, don't they? This is the Serbian combination. Martin Makovic furthest away from us. Milos Vasic. Had a nice conversation, didn't we, with Martin yesterday?
We did, yeah, and he was talking about how it felt on the course, and as we kind of suspected, it felt more windy, felt like more of a headwind for the rowers than it looks in these pictures. You don't tend to get quite such a feel for it here. But you can see, important to recognise, 3 qualifying, and these 3 well clear of the crews behind them, and I think it's Slovenia who are going to come in that 4th position, Austria 5th, and it's Hungary on the far side. And Hungary are going to need an enormous finish if they're going to come from as far back as they are today and get into one of those qualifying places.
Yeah, well, all the boats will be primed after watching Hungary's amazing rate 50 last 500 sprint. They're the Hungarians. They haven't clocked into turbo boost.
So we saw them yesterday in the Repechage. To get through to this position on that side lane, they had to absolutely go for it in the last 500. Came up to rate 50 for most of the last 500. That got them into a place to get here. But you can see from the graphic, they're 80 metres behind the leaders. But more importantly, they are, what, about 60 metres behind Serbia, who are in the 3rd qualifying place.
They're out of it. The Romanians moving away from the Lithuanians. They're in the 2nd place crew, just ahead of Serbia. You can see they're 18 metres behind the Serbians. The Romanians, I beg your pardon. But Marius Kosmiuc in the bows, the 29-year-old Olympic silver medalist in the pair behind the Sinkovic brothers of Croatia, with Ciprian Joza. Now he's swapped partners. Sergio Bejan from the Romanian 8 has gone into that pair. And Antonio Colomolici, must reckon that's a combination that's got a good chance of medaling at the World Championships this year and at the Europeans. Looks like it on the form they're showing now, doesn't it, coming into the last 500, Greg?
It does. The Romanians will be pleased with this because they were only 7th in Lucerne, which must have felt disappointing to them.
Yeah.
Now here they are with this good, strong lead at the European Championships. They look fantastic out there, don't they? 39 strokes a minute. They've been up there most of the way, and that's a good lead. The Serbians have come back to and looking like they're pretty well level with the Lithuanians. Those Serbians also, they made the A final in Tokyo. At the Olympic Games, bronze medals at Lucerne and Belgrade. They're coming through to that 2nd qualifying place. And Lithuania, I think, will be pleased with the work they did early to now just qualify for the final.
Yeah, you're right about the Serbians coming through, though. That's a decent move from them, isn't it? Just in the last 500 metres of the race to have that energy in the back pocket, just to have that high rating lift them through the Lithuanians.
Yeah, high rating they are. You can see it's 41 strokes a minute. But Romania have got a big lead, actually. 20 metres still on the Serbians. And I think the race is a run, really. It's one of these where you could all probably just calm down, but no one will. As we've got Romania at the front of the field. They can hear the applause. They've got a decent lead. You can see 39 strokes a minute. Nicely clear of Serbia that you can just see in that picture.
I'm surprised more crews don't close it down in this position, you know. They're going to the line at 39. I don't know why they're doing that, because they probably could paddle in at about 30.
Well, it's probably all about the Lithuanians, because if the Lithuanians let up, then Serbia could let up, and then they'd be able to then release Romania. Romania get across the line there. It's Serbia, who have just paddled the last few strokes for us, to take second, and Lithuania third. And they're going to be a long way clear of the next crews who are in front of our commentary position. It's Slovenia taking a look over their shoulders, and they're coming down towards the line just about now, going to cross the line and take that fourth place.
So there's Lithuania, will be in the A final. They'll be delighted with that. Some replays of that Romanian pair in the middle of the course. Coach following on the scooter.
Good to see he's wearing a helmet.
I was going to say, that's pretty cool, that.
It doesn't look that safe, does it, standing on an electric scooter?
And they enjoyed that, didn't they? Fist pumps, handshakes all round from Kosmiuk and Bayan. Confirmation 6:58 sub 7. The only pair under that 7-minute mark. World's best time at course is 6:08. So they're way off that, obviously, in these headwind conditions. So the Republic of Moldova over there on lane 1, the Netherlands, Spain, Great Britain the favourites to win this race in lane 4, Italy in 5, Poland 6. Just a reminder, we're looking at the semi-finals of the men's pair. This is the second semi-final. 3 boats will go through to the A final. The British pair are in the yellow boat, and we will go live to the British pair. Tom George, Ollie Wynne-Griffith.
And what I can tell you is they were leading, but only just from the Spanish after 500. It was just about half a second that they had, and the rest of the field all pretty close behind them.
And if you like your rowing, and you would like to read about your rowing, try and check out Row 360 magazine. There's a great picture of Tom George on the front cover, showing off his matinee idol good looks. And well, the Spanish will be pleased they're in contact with the British this close. The British are going to, I guess, look to move out in this third 500 metres.
Yeah, well, the Spanish pair, they were at the Olympics as well, 6th in Tokyo, so it's a form crew. They'll be pleased to have that half-length overlap. We see them here. What have we got there? 39 strokes a minute, so they're certainly keeping it ticking along into this headwind.
And it's an interesting thing that the British have really decided they want to rate. What are the British at? About 36 or
36,
something?
the British, yeah.
The British definitely don't want to do the high rating, 30, 38, 39 strokes a minute.
It'll be interesting to see if they can move away from the rest of the field, because that's what we've seen them looking to try to do, is not necessarily get off fast in the first 1,000, but then put pressure on the rest of the field and move away. Interesting, looks like they've moved away from the 2 crews, but the Spanish have gone with them.
So in third place, there's a contest between the Polish pair of Wozniak and Spasskovski and the Italians, Giovanni Abignoli and Alfonso Scalzoni. That's Abignoli with 1B, so it's not a relative of the famous Abignoli brothers. There they are. Alfonso Scalzoni, the 26-year-old closest to us, and Giovanni Abignoli from the pair in the Olympics finished 11th in Tokyo, 27 years of age.
And I think this is quite an interesting one, because the British have stuck here at about their 36 strokes a minute. The other 3 boats in your shot are all at 39 and have all been sprinting. I wonder if the Spanish are going to stay with it, or if the Spanish are going to have gone too far hard too early, because the British now are opening up that gap.
Yeah, Ollie Wynne-Griffith on the right of your picture with the shaved head. Tom George, his stroke man, 2 of them friends since school days at Radley College, the independent school back in the UK.
And they've got that bit of clear water that we would expect them to try and find with that steady pace early on, and then to be able to just ease away from the rest of the field. But yeah, they're still at 36. The Spanish are at 41. I think the Spanish desperately trying to hold on to that second qualifying place. I'm not sure whether the crew from Poland are going to be able to make an impression, but it's very interesting to see.
It was interesting, the Serbians were saying, you know, Tom George is a stroke man at the British pair, carries his hands quite high. I wonder if we can see it from that shot there.
But it doesn't look that clean. It looks like bumpy kind of water. So maybe
Yeah.
you want to carry your hands quite high. It looks like they're just making slight, a bit of wash coming off those blades. But yeah, like you say, so Tom George, does he look strong and upright with his handle quite high so we can really use this sort of back and shoulders?
First Brit to go sub 540 on the 2K Concept 2 Ergo test back in lockdown. 539.7 I think he did, or 539.8, and then Mosabi, he went one better than him, currently holds the British record.
The British pair looking strong there, still at their 36 strokes a minute. Still looks like not quite as clean as you'd like to hope it would be, but they're looking pretty good, passing our commentary position. Spain have stayed with them, now at 42 strokes a minute. Italy at 42 strokes a minute, trying to close the gap. And it's Poland, who I don't think are going to be able to get back in and worry those Spanish.
Yeah, Italy there for third place, just trying to battle through in terms of the Spanish. Poland's just a length behind Italy. They're the three qualifiers coming up to the line. Camera will pan back and take a look at the British. There they go. Wyn Griffith and George take the win by clear water from the Spanish, who did manage to keep their game together. And the Italians got the better of that battle with the Poles, Abignali and Scalzoni. There's the British paddling it out. They're not stopping, are they?
No, they're not stopping. They were able to keep that rate where they wanted it. You can see it on the graphic at the end. It stayed low at sort of 35, 36. While the rest of the world was sprinting to make it into the final, they were thinking already about what they would do in the final, I'm sure. So there we see what you're talking about, the sort of high setup that the stroke man there has. He's setting strong.
Yeah, what do you reckon that is clear? It's about 19 centimetres of height off the...
Looked like plenty of height, didn't it?
Yeah, it looked like plenty of height. Great Britain winning that heat in 6:55, 6:58 for the Spanish, and the Italians in third place. So we're going to the start for the semi-final of the men's quadruple sculls. Ukraine, Lithuania, Romania, Poland, Britain and the Netherlands. This is the replay of the start. Poland jumping out early doors in that lane 4 next to the British with the yellow boat, and we are now going to pick the race up. 750 metres gone.
And lovely to jump into this one, and I can tell you it was very close through 500. The Netherlands had a tiny lead, but pretty much only a second between them and Poland, Romania, Lithuania, and Ukraine and Great Britain not out of it either.
Polish quad that won in Lucerne being really battled by the Netherlands, who have had, well, they're sculling now much better, aren't they? Stefan Bruyne in the stroke seat, silver medalist in the double scull with Melvin Tweller. Simon van Dorp, the Husky, behind him. 3-seat, the big sub 540 man, Jan van der Bidge and Finn Florijn. Her sister Caroline is setting the world alight in the women's single sculls, and it's Netherlands in the lead, and they had to go through the repechage, Greg, to get into this contest. They're leading the Lucerne winners from Poland coming through the 1,000 metres.
Yeah, but will they have gone out too hard too early? Let's see whether this Dutch quad can keep this going. They've still got that tiny lead coming through the first 1,000, or you can see actually no, Poland have just got ahead. And I don't know, will the Netherlands pay for that early pace?
Yeah, they might well do. Poland are more fluid. They're sort of, they've been looking at different combinations, but they do look nice and easy the way they move. The Polish combination of Dominik Hazard, Matti picks up the two men from the double in the Olympics, and Miroslav Zataski and Fabian Baranski in the stern of the boat.
Now we're looking in on this Romanian crew. I mean, they looked good yesterday as well. 3 of them from that Tokyo crew. They were 3rd in Lucerne. They had a big win yesterday in their heat. So they look like they've held their nerve too with the fast-starting crew from the Netherlands.
So it's 3 through. The British in 4th place. Can they get back on the crew from the Netherlands? That will be the hope. The crew on the far side in lane 2 from Lithuania. Galianskis, Jankionis, Valiaskauskas and Adamovicius in the stroke seats. They're in 5th place at the moment. There they are. Adamovicius, tall man in the stroke seat of Lithuania, 2 meters tall.
But the race is getting away from the Ukrainians and the Lithuanians, isn't it? They're over there on that far side, but it looks like it's over here for the 3 qualifying places out of these 4. The British from this angle look like they're closing that gap with 500 to go. Netherlands went out very strongly. Will they pay for that now in the last 500? It's close enough that any of those 4 could make it.
Well, this is a new British quad, and Paul Stannard, the chief coach of the whole British team, has put the men's double of George Bourne and Matt Hayward into that crew, and they had a good race yesterday.
And the British are still underrating the rest of the field, 37 strokes a minute. Everyone else around them is at 39. So will they have somewhere to go, and will they be able to get a response? Remember, 3 to qualify. Romania had a good heat win yesterday, as did Poland. So those 2 are looking solid for the top 2 places, I think. Hard to call.
Look across there from the Dutch stroke man, Stefan Bruyne, just to say, what are you doing up there, Britain? And, well, what Britain are doing is going to take that 3rd place away from you, Stefan, unless you find something extra in the tank.
Poland are sprinting. You can see at the highest rating on the course, that little white square. Poland have come up with them now. Both
Britain now in 3rd place.
At 42. Britain have forced their bow in. The early leaders, the Netherlands, look like they're going to have to pay for what they did in the first 1,000.
Poland lead the race, Romania in 2nd place. The crew's coming in front of us. This has been a magical semi-final of the Quadruple Sculls. Great race from Poland. The new British quad rejuvenated. Tom Barras and Harry Leeks, the bowman. There you can see him, silver medalist from the Tokyo Olympics. But Poland coming up to take the win. The Lucerne winners. Romania takes 2nd. Britain through in 3rd place ahead of the Dutch. That'll be a big 3rd place for the British team. Ukraine and the crew from Lithuania. Thanks, Greg. Finish in 5th and 6th place.
Yeah, very big last 500 from that British quad. They looked quite well out of it early on in the race, and it was Netherlands who looked quite well into it. But I don't think the headwind conditions have favoured the Netherlands there. The flags are really fluttering. I'm sure the conditions will feel uncomfortable.
The British paddling out at the finish as well. They don't want to sit their heads over their blades.
Yeah. Oh, look at that.
What
early on,
there?
the British caught a crab.
Oh, wow.
So, wow, that was something that we didn't see.
We didn't see that early on.
Before we saw the pictures. Look at that,
so
very big crab.
That is the British 3-man, Matt Hayward. It's a boat stopper. Oh, my God, that's sensational.
Given that that's happened, then that's incredible to come all the way back. What a sensational
result, and we didn't know that. So that is something else. Great Britain to come in 3rd place.
Got to say thank you to our TV director for finding us that little bit of action that was going on in that early stage. And how interesting for the British that they will now go away and say, well, if we don't do that, we could be a couple of seconds quicker.
Well, we could have beaten the Poles. So this is a new rejuvenated British quad. What a fantastic 3rd place for them. So this is the last race of the day. The French, the Swiss, the Italians and Czechs in the centre lane. Belgium and Estonia, the improving Belgian quad. And the Estonian crew with the veterans on this near side. There's a replay of the start. And it looks clean. Maybe the Swiss just off the back a little bit. But no doubt to see, no surprise to see Giacomo Gentili's Italians out in front.
Well, as you say, there they are out in front. They were out in front by a long way after 500 metres, nearly 3 seconds on the rest of the field, who were more or less in a line. And you can see from the graphic, although you can't see it from the pictures yet, the Italians have a good lead, and the rest of the field are looking like they're going for 2 places between 5 of them, and Italy are saying this 1st place is going to be ours.
Yeah, what might have been, you know, the Italian quad in the Olympics, they caught that big crab, and it was heartache for them in Tokyo. 2 of that crew in the boat, Panazza and Gentili. So we see the French, new combination for them with the Onfroy brothers, Valentin and Théophile in the stroke and 3 seat.
Yeah, they had a big repechage yesterday, didn't they, and performed very well, that French quad, to get into this position. Let's take a look at the Swiss alongside them, 38 strokes a minute.
French look to be in second place and the Swiss in third place, but not far in front of the Czechs and the Estonians. Belgium look to be the crew off the back at the moment. Tim Brees, Gaston Mercier, Ward Lamel and the big Erg guy, and Ruben Claes perhaps finding the going a little bit tough in this semi-final after their efforts yesterday.
That looks lovely, doesn't it, in the Italian quad? Even though they're going along in the race like this, it looks patient in terms of the way the blades are in the water, and then they're giving it that real nice connected push together to keep the boat moving.
Yeah, this Italian quad finished second in Lucerne behind the Poles that we just saw in the other heats. But you'd suspect that the Poles, the Italians have stepped on. Here's the crew from the Czech Republic. Jan Fleissner, Thomas Sisma, Dalbor Nedila and Philip Zimmer closest to us with the curly hair in the stroke seat. Just edging through. They're in fourth place at the moment. The French on the far side in the yellow boat are in second place. The Estonian, the veteran in there, like Tonu Hendrickson and Alaraha in the Estonians in third place.
Having seen what we saw in the previous race, we could have been in for another exciting last 500, because will the French hang on to the second place, and who's going to make it out of these other three? Pretty much all in a line with 500 to go.
Well, you'd hope the French would hang on to the second place for the sake of the French team, because they haven't had the best of luck in terms of boats in the A finals.
And it's the Estonians really who've made the move here, isn't it? Coming out of our screen, out of our picture. Italy have got the rest of the field coming back at them. They're looking pretty calm. You'd imagine they're feeling pretty calm, but they don't want the rest of the world to come back too much faster now.
No, coming through with 250 metres to go. What a great move from Estonia, just through the line. You've got the veterans in that boat like Tonu Hendrickson, 43 years of age, Alaraha, 39 years of age. Two youngsters, Mikhail Kushtin and Johan Kulak in the bow on the stroke seat.
But there was the French there with those Enfoy brothers sat in the boat, who are looking like, whilst they're going to get caught for second place, they are going to qualify for the A final here.
So Italy come down in front of our commentary position, looking great out in front. They have led this race from the very first couple of strokes. Estonia go toe-to-toe with the French for the second or third qualification slot through to the A final. Three crews will go through. It's the last race of the programme this afternoon, and it is Italy that take the win. And who was that? France just headed to Estonia.
France just held on to second. Estonia get the third qualifying place. Disappointment in the middle of the course for
for the Swiss, for the Czechs and the Belgians.
And Belgium.
Oh, look what that means to TfL Enfoy. Congratulating his brother. Absolute, give him a hug. Filial love there, Greg.
Yeah, that's good news for them, really. They got out of the pair where they weren't quite doing what they wanted to. They're now in the stern of that quad for the French team. And then, yeah, good news for the Estonians as well. There they go. They look pretty decent, didn't they?
Yeah, they did.
And they had to fight for it because they made quite a bold move early on. And the rest of the crews, like this Czech quad, were coming back at them, but they held in there.
TV Director's got some great shots from today's racing to play with
fantastic.
on the highlights package, isn't he?
Fantastic pictures.
Absolute. We're still looking at the Italians there with that headgear of Giacomo Gentili.
Yeah, there was a time when you weren't allowed to have different headgear, was there?
I know. Those were the old days, back in the day. Italy, France, Estonia booked their A final places from the last race of this morning's programme, the day's programme at the European Championships for rowing. Switzerland, Czech Republic and Belgium go to the B final. So what have we got for us tomorrow? Third day of racing at the European Rowing Championships. We'll have a look at that timetable just a minute. There it is. CD semi-finals, B finals for the men's pair, the women's 4, the men's 4, women's quad, the men's quad. So B finals places 7 to 12.
Then we roll into some semi-finals with those A final places at stake in those events that had a higher number of entries. So you can see a lot of singles, a lot of sculling events throughout the day.
PR1 men's singles, the first A final, PR women's singles A final. So the PR finals tomorrow, and then the men's pair, the women's four, the men's four. All these are A finals: women's quads, women's doubles, men's eights A final.
So that'll be good tomorrow to see European champions being crowned, gold medals being given out by lunchtime tomorrow.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure to be with you today. It's been some great racing, exciting racing with A finals at stake. Even in the C finals, we had some exciting racing, didn't we, with the Swiss coming through. So we're going to give you a real treat. Stay with us. Don't go anywhere because there's some fantastic highlights. But from me, Martin Cross, and Greg Surlitz, goodbye. We'll catch you again tomorrow.
Thanks very much. See you tomorrow.
Sasse, ja, das ist so. Wir haben ja mitgeschlossen.
Semifinal